So we.
Does that mean we're on?
Yeah.
Yes, unless you want me to pause that.
Brian, let's go.
Make sure that's in the minutes.
It's being recorded. Yes, let's go. Hey, Katie, just tell Brian we're starting. I want to welcome everybody to the special city council meeting being held on April 8th at 5:30. This is the first of a two-night session of our upcoming budget for the fiscal year 2025 and 2026. We were supposed to start at 5:30. It's now almost 5:45, so somehow we'll get back on schedule. But let's see if we can do this meeting. Let's get a roll call of our city council members.
First present. Which way? Heyman present.
Summer Hayes present.
Midland present.
And
Plummer present.
and here's Brian Plummer as well too. So thank you, council members, for all being here. Thank you, staff that's here. The schedule, I think y'all have a budget retreat, a tentative timeline, which Nate Plaisir sent out to us. Got the budget overview starting at 5:30, and then from there, general funds at 6. Those of you behind me that are going to be presenting, be mindful of the time that you've been scheduled. Now, if we're a little bit behind, we don't want to cut into your work, but we want you to be able to present what you want to present. So this is Mediterranean and Greek theme tonight. So we'll turn it over to Mr. Vamianicus and Mr. Stephanopoulos over here for us.
That's pretty good.
We'll turn it over to Nate Plaisir and Brad Hanson to give us a budget overview. Okay, does that work?
Great, yes, thanks,
Great.
Mr. Mayor. Mayor, Council, before you, we have a balanced budget. I will share that when we first started this process, we were about $2.2 million over in our requests, which is always a daunting and challenging task, but I almost expect that every year, and I actually don't hate it because I get to understand what are the requests from all the department heads so we can have a good conversation about why you need that and try and prioritize those items together. So, but ultimately there's some areas in that where we don't really categorize our sell of fixed assets because we don't know what capital improvement we're buying or, capital equipment we're purchasing, so we don't know what we're selling. So that alone was, brought in a difference of $400,000 to $500,000. We know what the potential sell, the fixed assets or capital equipment to replace the sell those fixed assets. So there's a lot of moving parts. We tightened it up in a lot of areas. Just to so you're aware, one area that Nate and I have always kind of left open in our budget every year is that we have 61 employees that are eligible for our medical benefits, our healthcare, and we have 53 employees who take advantage of that. So there's 8 employees that don't take advantage of that, which is a cost savings to the city. We generally budget that in because you never know if they're going to call on, right? But at the same time, you're kind of leaving this unexpended funds in our budget that potentially we could be using somewhere else. So we still left a little bit of a buffer that if employees choose to take advantage of the plan, we're prepared to fund those plans, but we can just tighten it up a little bit better. I think that's kind of helped us a little bit understand.
Does our enrollment period match up with our fiscal year, like July 1?
Yes.
Are you guys here for the meeting?
So with that, yes. So overall, we have a balance, but we had quite a bit of requests for capital equipment this year, more than we've had in previous years to replace some aging equipment. We'll get to that and show those ages and potentially the dire need to actually replace those pieces of equipment. What else did I want to hit on? Well, I think I'm going to end it right there for now, and then I'm going to hand it off to Nate to kind of go over the timeline once again that he brings up before every meeting, as well as some of the revenues and our projections there.
Thanks. So yeah, as Grant said, just to go over the timeline of our budget process. Back in January, departments started working on their requests. And Grant and I met with each department in February to go over these requests. And since then, we've reviewed them extensively and made the adjustments necessary to give you a balanced budget tonight. Just to look into the future, the first meeting of May is when we're required to present the tentative budget to the public. We'll hold a public hearing that night. It'll then be open for a month where the public can provide comment on it. And then in June, we'll have the adoption of the final budget as well as the compensation schedules, and we'll set the tax rate or propose a new tax rate. Right now, there is not a proposed tax rate, but should we go that route, that will need to be done. The truth in taxation hearing will be done in August. Just to go over a couple things that we're going to see tonight that affects every fund. The first is the medical insurance. We have an estimated, but I think we're narrowing down on that estimate, that our medical insurance costs are going to increase about 7%. So you'll see that throughout each department. The other estimate is our insurance costs, our auto and property insurance. Right now, there's a estimated 5% increase. You'll see each department in that. And then just a quick note on your binders. In your binders, you do have, in that back tab, there's a personnel section. We've taken away the names of the employees, but you'll see the position title. Just a reminder that that's, while our salaries and compensation is public, they just need to go through the proper channels, whether that be through the Transparent Utah website or Grant Plus. So we ask that you just not share that information and allow them to seek it through the channels. With that, I think we can jump into revenues.
And with property taxes, again, our little pitch every year is, from an administrative standpoint, we believe it's practical to consider potentially a 2 to 5% property tax increase to avoid those large increases later. But I understand that that's tough to do. But I don't have it in this budget because, again, I don't know what the political support of that type of increase would be, but it would definitely help us ease the budget a little bit with those types of increases. But we have stayed within the budget with the revenues being projected. But again, just be mindful that it's a good practice going forward.
If we were to raise it 2%, how much additional revenue would that generate for us versus 5%? I'm just wondering what the.
Some cities just keep up with CPI, so it's 2.5% with CPI for our western region, but 2%. And
2% is going to be what, 45-ish?
About 45,000. 2% this year versus 40% in 10 years. I mean, it's a big difference. But again,
And that's just on property tax, so you have to, it's because that doesn't represent all of our revenues, it's an outsized or an undersized measure of how it affects our overall revenue.
did you do the chart showing our property tax rate?
I don't have that prepared here, but I can pull it up.
2% is 45,000.
Ish, I mean, based on our property tax revenue budget of 2.275, that's how it's coming out.
Yeah.
Quick rough number.
Okay.
So I'm going to have, Nate's going to pull up real quick the chart. Sorry, we should have it ready right now, but it shows the, our property tax rate over the years and how it's shifted, even with increases. It doesn't really increase it to the rate it was before. I just had this conversation with a business owner this past week of how property taxes work. Again, I just think there's a misunderstanding how property taxes work. Even though our values in Centerville have increased, doesn't necessarily mean we have increased in revenue. In fact, our rates go down. And this business owner was surprised by that, and I believe understood. Again, just because you're doing well doesn't necessarily mean the city's better off revenue-wise.
So the general fund has the main sources of general fund revenue is property tax, sales tax, franchise tax. And another large contributor is a reimbursement from the enterprise fund. So the general fund provides all the administrative services for these enterprise funds. So the enterprise funds reimburse the general fund. Just a reminder of how property tax works. The city gets the same amount of revenue year after year, unless there's new growth. So the rate will fluctuate because the home values will fluctuate. So then our rate will also fluctuate to give us that same amount of revenue. If we would like to increase that revenue, we need to go through the truth and taxation process, hold public hearings. So that's why you'll see on this chart, back in 1997, our rate was in the shy of the 1,600 range. As home values increased, the rate decreased, which is where you see that curve. The only time that the city has increased the property tax is in, I believe, 2017, 2021, and 22, I believe, if I'm remembering that correctly. So yeah, you'll see that our current rate, I believe, 1210, I believe, which is, as far as the rate goes, much lower than what it has been 20 years ago.
There are a number of cities out there that just maintain their rate. Clearfield City is one that they have a truth and taxation every year. Tax rate is 16.1600, whatever, 0.00016.
If you scroll up, so you can see the comparison.
They just actually have truth and taxation every year just to keep that rate the same. Of course, the impact to the homeowners is that if your value goes up, then your rate will, your taxes will go up. So that's one city. Other cities like West Valley, they just plan on having a truth and taxation every year. The school district has a truth and taxation every year, and so some cities are just modeling what school districts do nowadays. So, and also keep in mind, again, just a reminder, I'm sure you remember, but Centerville City's property taxes is approximately 10% of the entire property tax bill, plus or minus. School districts about 65%, counties about 20 to 25%. So we're a pretty small portion of that bill. And that's all, yeah, just want to share that with you. But it's not in, we do not have a budget, but if that's something you'd like to consider, then we can have that conversation.
I mean, speaking for myself, and I'm just thinking about our drainage fee discussion where we put it off, and then have to do a big hike, which I would rather feather in increases over time rather than have to surprise people or go without. So I personally would be interested in looking at that as an option. I'm not saying that I would do it, but I certainly want to understand if we were to feather it in as I'm proposing or do some kind of an increase, what would that mean and what would we get for it?
In the case if you did do a property tax increase, because we are using Fund 47 fund balance to fund the capital equipment. So if there was a property tax increase, it's less reserves we're using to balance this budget.
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're gonna charge more property taxes, we should be identified specifically what is it going to be used for.
You're
whether
protecting
that's
the reserves.
reserves for future or some other cost, so, yeah. Not increasing just because inflation is, but because there's an actual
Right.
substantive
And I
reason.
think that it's important that we do identify that, because when we did the property tax increase a couple of years ago, people were upset. But we were able to say, this is exactly why it has to go up. And I think that's important for us to, like, we need to have those types of, that ability to defend that decision if we get to that point. That said, I completely agree with Shaylin that we want to maybe do this a little more gradual, but we also need to understand how sales tax has behaved this year, I think, and I'm sure you're gonna talk about that, so.
We do, yeah.
Because I don't wanna overcharge our residents if our sales tax is doing okay and we can make it work, but
I guess my point is, I don't know whether it should be on the table or not on the table, because I haven't seen everything yet, but I'm willing to at least have the opportunity. I want to see everything on the table.
And that's what we
before
kind of
make the-
expect, is that you'll see
Yeah.
what fund balance, Nate's there, but we can get to it later. Do you want to share right now what fund balance we're using?
Yeah, so on page 60 is our capital projects fund. You'll see in our revenues there that we're using just over $1 million out of our.
Did you say page?
60. You might want to earmark that. We'll be switching back to that page quite a bit as we go through the general fund. Earmark. What I said.
Dog ear. Don't earmark it, dog ear.
I don't even know what I said.
It's an earmark now.
I know what you're saying.
Thanks.
Already done.
Thanks. Yeah, we can get into our other revenues, but the one thing I wanted to add to our property tax is you'll see in this budget that we have 2 new positions proposed, one full-time, one part-time. Should those be accepted, anytime we add an ongoing expense, like the position, I would like you to consider a property tax increase to keep that ongoing revenue coming in.
I think what's been helpful for the public has been this narrative. Obviously, it's not here yet because we don't have a final decision on what we're doing. But the narrative has been fantastic because it can point residents specifically to a context related to numbers. Because people will see this and some people turn off. Me and Nate are like, oh, this is fantastic. Other people are like, no, don't just spout off numbers. But the narrative is helpful. And so if and how we make decisions, those are incorporated as best.
You pull up the revenue presentation. She's doing that. We talked about sales tax. In this budget, we're leaving sales tax as we had it this current year at 5.5 million. We did that. While we may get a little bit over that, we're also losing a little bit from the Young Power Sports RDA agreement. So I felt comfortable leaving it as is. I think we'll probably get about 5.6 if we're lucky this year. So I felt comfortable leaving it at 5.5. There's obviously always the unknown about the economic situation, how tariffs are going to impact us. I went to a conference last week and had the economist from Zions Bank was very optimistic about it. I listened to a Zions Bank, the person that presents about the investments, and he was not so optimistic today. So I thought it was funny that they're from the same organization and had 2 different opinions. So who knows what's going to happen or how it will impact us. But for right now, I felt comfortable leaving it at the 5.5 million.
And our sales tax monthly revenues we've brought in have been inconsistent, down 17, up 3, even. And so months, it's really hard to predict at this point what each month is going to do.
And that's been a statewide trend too. We see a list of all the cities and a comparison of those. And sometimes we'll be up, some cities will be up 15%, some are down 15, 20%, all in the same month. So it's kind of been a little crazy, hard to predict.
Is that different than it usually is?
A lot of times you'll see, like most cities will have about the same increase or the same
They'll move
decrease.
in tandem with each
Yeah.
other, right?
And it's pretty consistent, right? So we can almost, before COVID, pre-COVID, you could almost predict what you'll get in a month based on just a 3 to 5% increase. But with COVID money and flooding the market and spending going up, which was a crazy amount of sales tax revenue we generated several years ago, we're still at 5.5, which is more than I think we would have estimated pre-COVID because spending went up, it's dipped, but it's still higher than what we may have predicted with a stable increase. So I think we were at 4.9 one year, and then it was 5.7 the next year. So $800,000 in revenue in 1 year, and then it's dropped. So that's why, again, we want to be conservative, 5.5, until we see some stability in those.
And the one thing I'll add is, obviously sales tax is volatile, subject to the market. can't always rely on it, but property tax is our one source of steady income. Just a couple other notes that I had on here is that the city court has done better than expected this year. So we've increased their revenue up to $320,000. And then the other account I wanted to note was our sale of fixed assets. And that is at $400,000. And that brings our total general fund revenue to about $13.5 million.
What line item is the sale of fixed assets?
It's 1036 for.
There it is, 4,000, whatever,
Yeah,
40,000.
so on page 9.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's about, the costs that make up that is about 35,000 from police, 355,000 from streets, and 20,000 from parks. If I did that math right.
How much from parks?
50 or 20, sorry. 20.
Oh, no, self-fixed assets.
Mhm. And each of those departments will go into their capital requests and explain what vehicles or equipment we're getting rid of to make up that number. But are there any other questions about general fund revenues?
I think for context, it's kind of funny, you talk about sales tax, you do 5.5, 5.6, but then we're talking about a 2% increase in property taxes, and that only amounts to half of that difference. So that's kind of,
Yeah.
from an amount, you're talking about percentages, but from an amount, it's not a large amount.
And that's what's scary about being so reliant on a volatile revenue source. It's worrisome.
If there's no other questions, then we can go on to the mayor and council budget on page 12. Here, there are not many changes. The largest change you'll see is on the contributions line. We set it at 10,000, and that is for the Bountiful Davis Arts Center.
So we add that in if that's the intent of the councils to the request to fund that. It is in the budget.
Sorry, what line is that?
That is the
41, then it's 217.
yeah.
Just a comment on that. I was really shocked and surprised today. I went on a field trip with my littlest, and we went to see the Utah Symphony at Farmington High. The Utah Symphony is one of 16 symphonies in this country. I was shocked. After hearing that, and then you bringing this up about Bountiful Davis Arts Center, I think that really defines a lot of who we are as a community in some ways. So I think we really ought to consider that.
Consider.
Donating the money to the Bountiful Davis Arts Center.
Confirming the.
Just
addition.
confirm to me that I think it's rather unique that.
You support the line
Salt Lake
item is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
Yeah.
I was
I
like,
guess
are you
the question
suggesting
I
we
have-
give money to the symphony?
Why
No,
does
no.
Why does it come out of this budget?
Because the day made the pitch to council, and
This is your donation.
that was your.
Where do you want it to come out of? It could come out of any of these.
Could come out of, can it come out of RAP?
I'm just looking at all the line items.
That's a program.
That
That's why I
has
wanted
to be capital
Okay.
improvement project.
We're going from $1,000.
So generally in the past,
1,000 this year.
Donations have come out of this budget in the past.
So I did
From
send
1,000
some
last
other
year to
category.
10,000.
We have not donated in the last few years, couple years.
yeah.
Mayor's.
So that's 1,000 in there doesn't necessarily mean we
The-
haven't spent that 1,000.
The
It's
amount
just
can be, I think,
just looking at
discussed.
all the
I
other
just
line
think it's
items in the
important
city
to.
that relate to their city council budget. But that one doesn't really relate.
Do you want me to
I'm
schedule
just
this
saying,
for a future
Did
meeting?
you have a?
No,
Lisa?
I just-
Right on.
This
Lisa's
is
got
where
it.
it's historically come out of. So we used to make donations. I went back quite a few years. started as a 500, then it jumped to $1,000 donation. We haven't made a donation in quite a few years. If my memory's right, it was pre-COVID was the last time we made a donation.
You're just
So
saying
this is where it's historically
where it's come from.
so I left it there.
To the battle for Arts Council.
Mhm.
And I'm generally supportive of it as well. I didn't know if it was gonna be 10 or 5.
We can discuss the amount. I don't
Yeah.
mean to say that's I think there should be a
I
discussion
think
about
we
it.
should
But just
definitely,
saying,
but it seems to go from 0 to 10,000 seems like a lot when there's other.
10 was the
people.
amount she asked for when, I forget her name, but she presented here.
Yeah, she was with Kate Bradshaw, who's the battle.
So we had sat in the budget, we didn't really have a final decision. It seemed generally supportive, but not necessarily voted on. So we'll schedule this for a follow-up before this budget's approved, just to finalize. Okay? Lisa's keeping track of our to-do list again for us.
I like how you just smoothly moved right into that and didn't let us like go off on a tangent. Good job.
Well, I do want to say that what I've shared with staff is my hope is we stay on this current budget. I've given the opportunity for department heads to share what their future needs are, but if there's anything that you want to discuss really in a lot more detail, say, you know what, maybe that's a good idea, I want to fund this year, let's schedule that for another meeting and not really distract from just looking at our current budget, or at least what myself and Nate's prepared for this budget, what we're proposing to you. If we want to talk about auxiliary things, we can talk about that. Ancillary things, we can talk about that in another meeting. Is that okay? Okay. Thanks.
The only thing I wanted to note on this budget was the recorder services went down significantly. It's because we're not paying for someone to do our minutes now. Jennifer's doing those in-house. But the $600 covers the AI tool that she uses, and that is split between the council budget and the planning commission budget. So 600 in each department.
I was gonna ask you that, if that, I did see that had gone down, and I was like, is that the AI tool at work?
Yep. So Jennifer's doing those in-house. We just pay for that AI tool.
Is she using that for minutes for all the other committees as well?
I don't think so.
It's not being used for parks.
It's not being,
I don't think.
No, we still use Connie
I
for
was gonna say,
some of our,
Connie
Yeah.
does our trails minutes.
Okay,
Connie still helps us with some of the others.
Okay.
okay.
Any questions there?
How long have we been doing the AI, just out of curiosity?
I want to say about 6 months now.
It seems like it's working pretty well.
Jennifer's doing great. I mean, at first it was a little clunky trying to figure out how AI produces. But now she kind of knows how to manipulate or where the flaws are. And so she's doing great. So the feedback has been great from all of you of what to look for as well. Okay, great.
Nothing else, then we'll go on to the court.
Are we doing justice court? Or is Bryce doing justice court?
Bryce.
Again, it's not much in there, but do whatever you want.
You've been there a while.
Over here. Oh, I can't sit here? Here. Sorry.
It's okay.
I sit next to this guy all day long. Don't get to sit next to you two all day long.
Yeah.
It's up towards the top. Well, the Justice Court, there's only 2 slides. So in the Justice Court, we have Tammy, Linda, and Carmen. Tammy's full-time, Linda's full-time, and then Carmen is.
Back.
You were at what? You want to go back?
No, not you, Sydney.
And then Carmen works on Thursdays, 1 day a week. As far as budget highlights, like you've seen, the revenue has gone up a lot from when we talked last year.
Why do we think that is?
There has been some ticketing increases that have helped a lot. So that's a big part of the revenue, it's tickets. So the big thing that they focus on all the time is they go through a lot of training. The state mandates a lot of specific court training. There's a lot of times I walk in there and they're just on Zoom calls and recorded meetings that they have to do to continue their CEU credits to make sure that they're compliant with the state. So they're doing not as much training as police, but they're doing a lot of training to keep compliant and make sure that we're in accordance with state law when it comes to all of our court stuff. So
is the ticketing that people are being more naughty, or that we're being a little more strict?
That's probably a Chief Ackerson question, I think.
Chief Ackerson,
Yes.
are we writing more tickets because people are being naughty, or are we writing more tickets just because we're writing more tickets?
A lot of it has to do with the particular officer and what shifts they're on. And we have a new officer who's a little energetic.
So the challenge has been to the police department to be engaged in the community, right? And I think that they've stepped up in there, because they're really the people they see before any of us. They'll see a police officer before they see any of us. And I think their presence out there has been good, but when you also have that presence, you uncover or discover criminal activity or things the naughtiness that's been happening when we're out there engaging.
I haven't heard negative feedback. that
I
people
haven't
are
heard
being
any
overtaken.
either. That's why I wondered if people were
So
suddenly.
no, I think
naughty
they're doing
than
great.
normal.
They're engaged in the community. They represent the city well, and they're citing people for proper citations. So they're not writing tickets for the sake of writing tickets. They're just out there, and I think it's great.
When we're talking ticket increases, how much are we talking in increase?
I can give you I don't have the numbers in this slide, but I can share those numbers if Brent wants to
Just
share.
curious.
So
We can see like who's writing tickets, so like our police or the highway patrol, that's how we can kind of break it down. So we can,
So during COVID, tickets dropped 50%. And there was a lot of reasons for that with the BLM happening, things like that. There was just a lot of unrest. And so there was a significant drop in just really engaging and trying to just work with people, right? And not trying to stir up or create controversy in any way. And so we're slowly just getting back to just doing our job and be engaged in the community. So we're not writing more than pre-COVID. I still think we're below pre-COVID ticket writing. But again, that's not necessarily the intent or my purpose. I just want you to be engaged in the community. And if it's writing a ticket to get them to change their behavior, then write a ticket. If it's educating them, then educate them. But we've got to change behavior.
This is not a major thing. I just at some point, I'd love to see those numbers, just to see how many tickets and how much revenue were we generating pre-COVID, and then sort of show me the graph. I'm just curious.
So the revenue is one thing. I mean, we can obviously pull up revenue pretty easy, but Tammy, for the last 3 years, has given me numbers, and so I can get those numbers to you. I haven't asked for the most recent update.
yeah, she sent them to me and I just haven't, I'm not very good at my weekly report. We could
I'm
do
not
a
trying to. be
quarterly
honest.
report,
Yeah, just curious.
Yearly report.
yearly report, more like it, so.
As far as revenue goes, though, in fiscal year 23, we had 304,000. Fiscal year 24, it dropped to 286.5. But so far through March of this year, we're at almost 284. So they've just about met
Oh, they're at 284 already in here.
through March, yeah. So 3/4 of the way through the year, they've matched last year's.
So the revenue is 284, but this is showing
Through March.
Through March,
through
yeah.
March, but what is when it says actual budget for fiscal year 2025, 6 months, 6 months, it's right in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was.
So ultimately, our revenue estimate of 320 is conservative. Could it be 360 if things maintain potentially?
Maybe.
But again, we want to be somewhat conservative with those numbers, not setting expectations high. You got to meet this revenue. We'd rather be low and you exceed that. To keep-
Three-quarters
I
of that
agree.
was crosswalk.
You what?
3/4 of that was crosswalk runners. And if we wanted to, we could double that at the crosswalk.
We're sending Councilmember
We're gonna
Meekum through
deputize you.
post so she can write tickets herself.
yeah.
I will say, just, this is totally off topic, but it might be helpful to have a little more, I know we do this all the time down at the junior high, but I literally watched a kid about get ran over in that, not where you're at, but at the Hawk signal.
Oh,
And I see a lot of people ignoring, like, I don't think they're ignoring the light on purpose. I think they're just in a hurry and they're not paying attention, and it's a little scary.
We did get a complaint and
I'm
Chief
totally
Atkinson.
supportive of, like, you've only got a couple more months left in the school year to like get that people ingrained in people's brains.
Just remind them, I just
Yeah.
worry about a kid getting hurt.
We did get a complaint about maybe a stop bar showing where to stop, and Chief Atkinson forwarded that on to UDOT since it's UDOT road to potentially add some more safety.
I will tell you, I thought it was a terrible idea.
Right, Chief?
to
You
put
did
it
that?
in there. I think it's extremely dangerous because
Knew you were
people
going-
stop at me and they think they're done, and then they take off. And you're not driving like this, you're not looking for a street light. I have gone through it after crossing the kids because you're not looking up. All of a sudden, you're like, oh my gosh. So I think it's really dangerous because people
I-
don't,
for
and the
the
kids
most
think
part-
if the light changes, they don't look to see if the traffic's stopping. They've got the right of way.
I'd still,
They just go.
but I'd still rather see that there than the darting kids before, which were still crossing there because they're not walking down to you. They're coming from basically Spencer's
You've
neighborhood.
probably
Yeah.
doubled or tripled the amount.
Probably,
crossing
but most of the time they are pretty, I think people are pretty careful through that area just because there's a lot of traffic anyway at that time of day.
Right.
But I just have noticed in the last couple of weeks, I'm like, oh, there's people being a little bit bold about the way they're maneuvering that
So
crosswalk.
we could talk about that.
Yeah,
A
later.
little bit more.
Okay.
Is there anything else in justice court that you want to highlight?
Good, 'cause your time's up.
Your time is up.
This
Well,
is where we air all our grievances.
agree to disagree.
Your time is up?
Yeah, it's up.
All
Now he's
right.
up. Now he's moving on to administration. Is that or IT, what is next? Sorry.
It's happening, I think.
What's happening?
Okay, so in our admin budget, it consists of Brant, myself, Jennifer, Lisa, and Haley as well. As far as budget highlights, you can see on the budget highlight list, in the admin budget in red, you'll see that there's a risk management safety incentive program that we're trying to implement for next year. Basically, it's a program that we would help decrease our risk as far as workers' comp and safety incentives for employees.
Is that gonna reduce our,
Yeah, so we
Workers' comp.
will get a discount on our workers' comp if we implement it in the safety program. It's not gonna be dollar for dollar, but we will get a discount for the program.
So the trust is really, they've been talking about this for the last 5, 6, 7 years. They actually have studies that show there's a decrease in actually workers' comp claims with these type of incentives. So there's definitely some benefit to that. Why we don't see much of a discount, we only have our workers' comp through them, not our property liability through them. If we actually had property liability through them, we'd get a 5% discount off of that, which is a bigger chunk. But we do still see there be value in incorporating a program to incentivize safety. And some of those are, you create, one of the most successful ones they've done, and I'm not saying we're doing this, we can talk about it more later, is you create teams of 4 or 5 people, and over a quarter, if there are no accidents, they get a gift card at Amazon. And so that team is, if they do have a claim, then that team loses that. So you start having that buddy system where they're holding each other accountable, saying, hey, put on your glasses, things like that. So
Whoa, perverse incentive to not report workers' comp injuries though.
so that has been a concern of mine, because there are some positions, right, well, I don't want to report this because I don't want to. I want you to report it. Absolutely report it. If there's no money that goes out, I want you to report a claim. But there potentially is that risk.
Well,
Now,
let's just make sure that our policies are very clear that employees are required to report workers' comp injuries and that they can't not report something because they're worried about losing a gift card.
which could be a disciplinary action if you fail to report, not just for the individual, but potentially the person observing, for sure.
And we're not talking a large amount of gift cards. It's a small amount. I mean, I think total for the year would be $50 for the employee, so it's not like
Huge.
hundreds.
Got it.
We want to encourage people to report potential risk and workers' comp. And so,
I guess I'm just thinking that we can talk about this later, the peer pressure, right? Like, oh, you were injured, hey, don't report that because I want the gift card.
Well, when we have this conversation, talk about the program later, if this is funded, then we'll actually bring the trust in and actually have that conversation with us so we can answer.
But that is a discussion item later, we can move on. Just-
Yeah, so I mean, if you fund it, we got to give you a preliminary idea of what we'd like to fund and what that looks like. We can discuss the
I'm
mechanics.
generally supportive.
Globally, on several of the various funds, I know medical insurance is going up 7%, but I'm seeing a big decrease in most funds. Can you talk me through that?
Yeah, that's what Grant mentioned, that
Sorry, did I miss it?
no, you're fine. We previously budgeted, because the employee is able to take advantage of that benefit at any time.
So for example, in this case, Bryce is eligible to take medical insurance, but his wife carries the medical insurance, so he opts not to. So we budgeted that 25 to 30,000 each year. But now we're kind of rolling that back a little bit.
Sorry, you did say that. I'm sorry. I saw it
And
again.
that's why I asked about the enrollment.
Sometimes I
Because
do
if
it
you're in
twice.
the enrollment period, like, you can't just jump in, right?
Right, so using this
You can't-
example.
No, if Bryce
in-
I
misses
can't-
the enrollment period, he has to wait till the next
If he
enrollment
loses
If I
period.
lose, I can.
If
But
his
if
wife,
if my wife loses,
Okay,
I
so
can't.
But I'd
that's why
rather-
that's why you've always had that hedge,
Yeah.
that if.
but I'd rather account for that now instead of holding us back from budgeting properly. I'd rather come back and say, we need $20,000
I think,
or find
I
the
think
20,000
in this
somewhere
case, I
else.
probably would rather see it that way too. Just because I agree that could be a shock, you know, if you had a couple of employees that happened to, but at the same time too, it's a
Or
pretty
you could just hedge it and
significant
say,
drop.
is it a 50% probability, 40, just add that.
We did have one employee this year opt back in, but again, there was some budget money to absorb that even without looking. So that, we just rather be a little bit more transparent and more exact with our budget.
Yeah.
So this will be department by department specific based off your individual conversations or situations.
Yeah, so this
Yeah,
will
that's
probably change through open enrollment. It'll happen in May.
Yeah.
And then whenever we have a life-changing event and someone opts into it, then we would have to add that.
But we still have time to make changes to our final budget between that May tentative budget presentation, open enrollment, and then our final budget approval.
Also, gasoline doubling potentially.
We're using our vehicle more than we have in the past. Well, I mean, we got it last year.
Okay,
We're using it
that's,
more.
that's what I was gonna ask, is
It's
this
actually really
because
good
you
to see.
actually have a vehicle
Instead of the
available?
personal mileage.
Were you pulling it from a different fund?
Mileage reimbursement is going down 300 or so.
Okay,
What is it? Yeah.
that's fine. I think that's great. I just want to
No, it's at
understand that.
1,000 still, isn't it?
Okay, and then I also noticed, this is also a global comment, education and training seems to be dropping a little.
We're going through and fine tuning our travel and training throughout the budgets.
Okay.
So reducing them where we can.
So we, each employee turned in a list of things that they would be attending this upcoming year with its costs and everything. So Brian has that list if you want to see it in more detail, but.
I would say every year you tell us that we're gonna see and what you haven't had time. I'd really like to see what they used last year.
Yeah,
What do you mean? So what
In which case,
conferences they've attended?
Well, I would like to know how many hours each, not employee, but each, um, not an individual person, but a job. How many hours of training they got.
Well, one of the things we worked on this year, which you saw from presentations from department heads or the employees themselves, or in the weekly updates, we've made a concerted effort to say these are the trainings that have been attended by these employees.
But it would be interesting to me to know.
more than,
You're
I
gonna be
hope
really-
she wants to see some data.
Yeah,
Like,
so-
How many hours they're
So
actually
how
training
many
it to be
hours-
underwhelming, I'll share that.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering. Are we getting enough? Is some getting too much and some getting not enough? I would like to see those numbers so that I know how many hours of training per, I don't know what I want to say, position, I guess. It was last year.
I mean, I
So
can tell you
we
in our admin budget, I feel like everyone isn't left wanting. Everyone has an opportunity to.
But so when we say this money, is this what we paid for them to go as opposed to what it actually costs? If you're gone a whole week, then it's a week of your salary. So I'm not concerned with so much as what we're paying for the training. I'd just like to know how many hours of training each person's getting.
We can do that. I don't have an issue with that, but someone being out on training, I'll use Bryce's. If Bryce is gone for an entire week, 40 hours, you're getting training as well as him doing his job while he's out, right? So you're getting potentially a full workload while he's out training because he's working, because I do the same thing. I'm working at night with emails or I'm in my meeting, kind of double duty breaks or whatever it might be. So if you're wanting to see what the loss is,
I don't
right?
think it's a loss. in some
No, well,
way.
it's a-
It could be
it's a
gain.
cost,
I
it's
just would
a-
like to know how many hours each position uses in training.
Okay, and that's fair. I don't mind that, but trying to say that, but arguing that's what salary we're losing because we're paying for your
I don't
salary.
think we're
is a
losing it.
little-
I just would like to know how many hours of training people are. I don't know how does everybody else.
I think it's important.
Yeah, no,
What
I
you're
don't.
saying is important. So I
Yeah.
think-
Sure, yeah, and I just want to clarify, if it's the hours we're looking at and how many, you're gonna be underwhelmed because it's not gonna be a ton of hours for each employee. But at the same time, I don't want it to look at it and say, that's how many hours are out of the office not doing their job, because that's not necessarily fair either, because if you're out of the office, doesn't necessarily mean you're not doing your job.
Well, I didn't.
Oh, no, that's why I just wanted to clarify,
Right.
to ask, right?
We can put together something. It
Yeah,
shouldn't be too hard to do.
that's not a problem. Okay, Lisa?
Oh, hold on. We on IT services, we're going down, and that was, last year we did our website, we did Bamboo, HR, I think that's what our big expenses
So I did a
were.
breakdown for you on the PowerPoint because that did go down. Anything went down or up, I did a more detailed breakdown of what.
Gonna say, but
that
some of
line
the
is.
other, I did wonder, did you move some out of administrative and into other? Because some of them went up a little bit. I didn't know if that was, it seemed like globally there were quite a few where IT went up a little bit.
If you could give me more specific answer.
I'll have to just point it out as we go. I don't
Okay.
know.
But those two specifically, IT services is broken down more line item by line item what. the budget
And that
is.
is helpful to see, because my next question was, what is professional services from, what are we looking at there?
Yeah.
So
And
that's
our
very
Bamboo
helpful.
HR, that's just our annual contract.
Correct.
Can we get a copy of this? I always find this to be extremely helpful with the,
We finalized it today, so that's waiting for the.
Um,
working.
On there, I also would like to know on the Ferguson group, I'd like some feelings on how we feel that the new climate in Washington is going to be on grants.
They will be here next month to present. We're actually going to have them come out and have a conversation and present to all of you, as well as kind of toward the city and what our needs are. So it'll be a good opportunity to meet with them, have a conversation.
But
with
maybe
them.
I'd like the other side, I mean, obviously they're going to tell you it's great. I'd like to know from somebody else who has a little more feeling of the economy and the new.
I mean, it's hard to, I understand they might be self-serving to some extent, but they are the experts at the same time. And so
We need another.
But if we got another
But I think what,
who's the other option?
my interpretation would be, in my world, reach out to our 2 senators and our 4 congresspeople. See
Exactly.
What's the feel for, with this new makeup of Congress?
And I'm not saying, I have
And
no
giving
idea.
grants. I think that's kind of what Robin's asking.
Yeah, and I'm
That's,
like,
that's what
I'm
I,
not against the
So-
Ferguson group by any means. I
Well,
just have no idea what it's gonna.
well, we have a conversation with them, and we can follow up conversation with our representatives on, is this where you're seeing things? But again, I think it's critical that you also have a conversation with the staff who's meeting with the Ferguson group weekly or bi-weekly, and how do we feel like our representation is? Because it's not, again, it's not just about the grant money they're bringing in, but the representation, and understanding what the DC climate's like, and making sure that we have a connection, a direct connection to our representatives. So they provide us a wealth of information saying, here's where the legislation is going, here's what it could impact you. So it's not just about the money, and I want to make that perfectly clear that that is part of it. But having that information to provide to us is awesome.
Is that when they are talking about the climate that is not maybe the grant potential? I don't know. I have not heard anything from that. Could staff bring that to us and explain what some of that is?
Like what, I'm sorry?
The other
Well, you're
information.
talking about the other information.
yeah. So what
we
we're
don't-
seeing-
The only thing we ever hear about
Sure.
is the grants,
Sure,
potential
the
grants.
digest that they send out. things
And
like
while
that.
we got a really amazing grant on the water tank, it's been a little bit less than I would have hoped for since then. And I know we have, I appreciate everything that Mike has done to prepare and show us the grants, but not all of those are coming because of Ferguson Group.
For sure. So no, that, again, that's part of that meeting on the 20th, is to have that conversation with them.
Okay.
And if we're truly feel like, if you're feeling like you're being represented, and if you're not, then that's a different conversation for sure. But it's in our budget, so we do feel like there's value.
Is that a year-to-year contract?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have no
Is it
idea.
only,
Yeah, I have a
is it
question.
only 12,000? I thought it was 60,000 a year.
It gets broken up between the general, all the different funds.
Okay, you're spreading it
So
out. That's
total
right.
is,
Okay.
total, because I remember it being 60.
Okay.
So, line, let's see, where did I see it? Newsletter.
Yeah, so we've gone out to bid, we've done some bidding, and that is the updated price for the newsletter, so it'd be a quarterly release. instead of the annual release.
$12,000 for a quarterly.
Well, that's why we went away from.
That's actually a lot
few
less.
years
That's a lot less.
It used to
Yeah,
be
we're doing good.
25?
For
Yeah.
monthly though.
Well, one of the big
No, we
things,
never went monthly. This is
No,
just a
No.
quarterly.
we've always been.
It was quarter, it was 20, that was 20 plus quarterly.
So what is the cost for it for a month? To go
Haley,
back
do-
on a monthly
Haley, do you know, no,
newsletter.
we've never done a monthly.
Times that by 3, and that would be your monthly newsletter.
times 12 by 3.
That easy math. I mean, it could be different based on.
We never did a quarterly?
We've
I
always done
remember.
quarterly, we've never done monthly.
It was quarterly.
Was it?
Yeah.
Really?
So one of the things that, again, the cost is going down, but a big part of what we were paying for before was they did the editing and the proofreading and all that. We're now doing that in-house. So this is just purely printing
Printing and
stuff.
postage.
Printing and postage. So, and we're doing all the, Haley mostly is doing all the material content, proofreading, the
I have
formatting.
had a lot of complaints with the newsletter going away. I tell those.
Yeah, I definitely like to see.
It was only substantiated by the fact that you don't read it. That was the nail in the coffin, Robin.
Confirmed it.
If a city council member doesn't read, I actually read it.
I mean,
Back up to,
one potential you could think about is doing quarterly, but then maybe for the 4th of July, you do one specifically just for the 4th of July. It would just be for that event, wouldn't necessarily be city news information, but, you know, we could.
I like that we incorporate as part of.
Yeah, why, what would be the benefit?
Yeah.
My other thought was, could everybody that wanted it sign up with their email and we email it out to everybody that?
I would
Mail
be-
it to them. I mean, I think that the feedback I get is that we need to have more transparency. We need to have more information getting out to people. And it seems that the written word is the preferred method by that.
And I'll say that everybody
Yeah.
gets their information differently, right? So the
Of
written
course.
word will impact 5% of the population.
Well,
Social
that's
media
your
will
estimate.
impact another 10%, whatever the case might be. I don't know what the breakdown would be
Right.
these days with communication, but so the cost, you know, there's this huge cost to how many people actually getting and reading the newsletter, and that's the cost benefit
I think the
analysis that we're
recent
doing,
social
right?
media updates have been better and better and better. Like,
I agree.
I'm seeing our.
And the new website is
our
going to be
agenda is
also
going-
huge.
Our agenda's going out
Mhm.
every, I think it's the Monday before the meeting. So people.
Which I think is great, but there are some people who just don't do social media.
Correct.
So
I understand.
we've had so darn many complaints about not having a newsletter.
We
that
have, and I will.
I feel like there's enough complaining that we just need to get back to
Well,
it.
we're okay with it. As
And
far as
then
staff,
we
we're
can
okay to
also
reach
post that on social
Yeah, the question
media.
is, do you want to go quarterly or monthly? And I think
Quarterly.
Oh, quarterly. I don't think it needs to
I'm
be
more
done.
quarterly.
Hey,
Even
Haley will
maybe
need an
twice a
assistant.
year.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, you can
That's a lot of.
And I don't think it needs to be as long as it was before. I think you can do some directing to social media, which may help people to be like, oh, I didn't know we could follow along with the police department.
It's just so
That's-
hard because when we print that, the day it goes out, it's almost outdated by the time we put it out.
And
Because-
that's where I'm seeing you could put some little things in like, hey, check us out at, check out the police page at here on,
So,
Facebook.
I guess my
Website.
charge to you as a council is,
QR
we
codes.
release this back to a hard copy. We need your support to give us the feedback immediately, saying, what do they want to hear? Or what do they want in it? Or where are they not getting it? Because we need to know that so we can direct the monies into the right channels. Because sometimes we don't hear that back. I mean, when you say people are frustrated not getting the newsletter, what is that number? I
So
mean, is
here-
it 10%, 20%, 50%?
Well, I don't know, but I've had a lot of complaints about it. I like as many complaints about that as almost anything. So I do think it's an issue to those who do want to see it. They're being pretty vocal about it. I do think here's the types of information. I think that where I've heard the complaining is we didn't know when spring cleanup was. We don't have an agenda for the 4th of July. The fall cleanup, the glass recycling bin, where is it's
So
full.
something
give
that would be
some report.
super helpful.
Excellent.
What is the
Follow-up
general
action
plan going
Yeah,
on? What's on with the-
Excellent.
Yeah, where's the
Follow-up
general
item
plan?
discussion.
Seriously.
And that's just no fault to me, I guess, but we need to know what that information is. So when you hear from your constituents, text me or Haley and say, hey, look, this is what we're hearing so that we can put that content in, because we only know what we know.
Well, and if we,
So you guys
if
can
we
tell
have a
us.
work group about that and you can give me a couple of weeks' notice, we could also do some polling on, so I know that only reaches the social media people, but we could ask them what types of information they'd like to see in a newsletter.
I want to know why it's outdated, moment goes out. If we're planning in advance and the newsletter goes out.
I guess what I mean by
A
that
month
is-
later is when the spring cleanup is, unless we're changing dates.
So like, I'll give you an example. So like when we release the newsletter for summer programs, if for some reason we print it and it goes out and we have to make a change with the way the summer program is because we lose an instructor or a facility changes, that's what I mean, it gets outdated very fast. Whereas a digital copy, we just go in and edit it, put it back out there.
It doesn't have a
It's
live
new.
version. It's
That's
very
what-
static.
That's why, using that
Newspapers
specific
and
example, that's where
periodicals.
we have, right at the summer programs, in bold, subject to change per instructor, using that sort of, you
And
know what I'm saying?
even just putting the QR code, I think if you put a QR code of where to go to sign up, then, and same thing, like do what the mayor said, put something that says subject to change, but then they can get on and see immediately what is available in real time.
We have some ideas for this. We can present them to you guys and you can think about it to try to get some more engagement.
So I mean, the staff, we support the idea of the print newsletter, if you're supportive of that. I mean, obviously, we'll be bringing this back about what does it look like.
I do
We
want to,
revamp it.
just some validation for Bryce on this, we will talk about it later, but I do agree with you that when you're trying to get it printed, there's going to be somebody on staff that is going to be spending excessive amounts of time trying to make it perfect and get it just so that you don't deal with that. So I do want to validate him that is hard when you're actually putting it in print
Oh,
and
it's
it
not hard
has
for
to
me.
be out.
Good job.
Yeah, but I get it. I do want to say I do get that. So maybe less is more and just more directing towards the website, where you sign up for the recreational activities.
Updated information can be found.
Not to beat this to death, but I'll just confirm that bringing back the newsletter, the new website, doing better social media, they'll all tie back in together, I think, in a more cohesive manner that you'll see a better impact to the community of getting information out, because things will tie in together better and they'll relate back to each other and they'll feel like this came from the city more than it came from, your neighbors.
Well, so knowing where I come from on this, I've had 2 people tell me that they saved them for the historical, so that when they want to know what went on, they go back and look at the newsletters.
I appreciate Mom giving me my newspaper clipping when I was student body officer at Sunset Junior High that she saved all these years out of the newspaper. Right? I don't know who does that anymore, but I know there's still those people.
Obviously, the council's concerned about citizen outreach, and the other thing you have in that category is marketing of 30,000. Can you give us a feel what
And so
goes
just
for the marketing?
And so we're working in the brand rollout, so updating all the park signs, we're doing the logo on all the placards. So if you look at Public Works, there's a little circle logo that says the old Centerville logo. We would do a custom plaque and have a new logo on that. We're working on doing more event supplies, so when we're out in the community, canopy, feathered flag, tablecloths. We're rolling out more uniforms for staff and just general promotional items for the upcoming year. We're also working on trying to bring in a facilitator to help with some of our values, mission, and vision implementation. And then a lot of that goes back into Facebook and Instagram ads. And in that marketing, we also have our texting service. So we have a texting service where citizens can sign up for, hey, get an event, sign up for this event, text the word events to this, and they'll get updates of what events are coming up. So we use that on a regular basis. We're seeing huge increases in actually using Facebook marketing and Instagram marketing for boosting ads and things like that. When we boost things like that, we have a much greater reach. We can do a more specific target group to get the information out. I can't have time to show you today, but you can see in our static posting and in our video posting, it is night and day difference. And it's even more night and day difference when you look at when we boost something out and the reach that it has. And so we do have a significant amount of money in there for that kind of stuff. Also more signage as far as yard signs, talking about events or else.
Yeah, that's what I want to see with that 30,000 is information getting to the residents. I mean,
I will say that
I don't want to,
posting on Facebook is a really inexpensive way to
Absolutely.
get reach.
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, so signage around town is something we're looking at doing. We've talked about in that branding. If you go around North Salt Lake, they kind of have these permanent fixed signs
Pretty cool.
that talk about all the different upcoming events or things that are going on.
I
That's
like it,
something
I like those, but I don't like them. I don't know how I feel about them.
We talked about that, and so
They're a little tacky, but they're.
I know what's happening in North Salt Lake when I
I
go
know,
through.
and
It was
that's
cool.
why I'm torn on it, but yes,
We can make it look nicer if we did.
I know.
I can give you a more
Thanks, Mayor.
detailed out if you want. If you
Is there a reason why it's not the same 27 as last year?
I don't know why.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and look at my detail.
Back up on professional services, what's the $12,000 difference from last year to this year?
Nate, do you know? Or was it on the?
What are your 12,000 difference you're talking about?
Oh, like what we paid for some group last year?
The amended budget for this year.
Oh, I
and then
see.
the tentative budget for this year. So what's that? When I look at this breakdown for professional services, where did that 12,000 come from generally? Because our Ferguson group didn't go up.
But you increased it for bamboo full integration. And then added $1,000 for the niche academy. It's the two notes that I had.
What is the Niche Academy?
So that's our online trading platform for our volunteers and coaches.
Oh, okay.
Also part of the new state law about volunteer training. We just decided to keep it there.
So mostly bamboo and.
Mostly
niche?
bamboo.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Introdyne is our archiving service that we use for our email and our social media. If you have questions about any of those, just let me know.
Okay, thanks. That was my question.
Just real brief, capital equipment. I know I'm probably over time. Really, in our capital projects, we're talking about the website. That's our big capital project for next year. You can see.
Technically, it's not a capital project.
Well, it's
but-
not, but like it's a project. I mean, it's not. It's true. It's not, but it's in the IT one. But anyways, we wanted to kind of outline it for you. We've kind of looked at 3 different options. Our current company is the one at the top, and then we've kind of gone out to bid to look at some other companies. So this is kind of where we're at, so you can kind of see the numbers.
We had a potentially promising opportunity that would give us a little bit more flexibility to change our website when we need it, not wait for a redesign every 3 to 5 years. But that possibilities. That one has gone away, but there might be a hybrid of doing something like that still. We really like that option where we control our material, our website today. But it does require more staff time to be a little bit more savvy on WordPress and website design. So that's the drawback.
And that is not any of these 3?
It is. It's the bottom one.
The bottom one, you can do some of that.
Yeah, so the bottom one would be the one that we would recommend going to. I won't lie by telling you that I am nervous just because it's a new platform. I don't know much about it, but I'm less nervous because it's the same platform that the state uses. We kind of have an ace in the deck with our previous council member, George McEwen, and his team. They're the ones that kind of helped us through this process, and they give us some great resources, and they will continue to give us some great resources in case we get down the rabbit hole or whatever it may be.
The presentation you gave us 3 weeks ago or so, that was Civic Plus, correct?
Yeah. So
Is there an advantage to staying with, I know it's the higher bid, but with staying with Civic Plus, are we still going to use Civic Plus for our meetings and whatever?
Jennifer likes Civic Plus for meetings right now.
Yeah.
we would still use Civic for our code and our policies and stuff, and for Civic Clerk. Those things will still integrate with whatever site we move to. I guess for me, like, I think our website should change, and we should be able to control what goes on it and be able to change the template and have it adapt to how technology adapts more than just once every 4 years. And that's kind of where I'm at. The 2 companies that you see on here at the top are more government-based design companies. You're just getting a cookie cutter approach. Whereas the last guy on the bottom, he's the guy that designs all the stuff for the state of Utah. He's kind of their subcontractor. And we've done a demo with him and I like him. And so we do have a little bit of a retainer built into that $7,000 annual contract to kind of keep him on as like a consultant if we need extra help and things like that. But like, I guess for me, like the annual reoccurring cost is significantly lower.
Yeah.
Impact to the
That's what
city.
draws me in. It's
Me too,
substantially
and
less.
And I like that, is this a little bit like the property taxes where it's better to kind of keep up on the website a little bit every year and then
Yeah,
you're maybe
so-
not having such drastic changes every quarter?
But that's the discussion we'll have to have when we finalize what direction we want to go. Because I actually don't want to pay Bryce to be a website designer, frankly, right? We already have him doing a lot of things. So how do we actually share in that responsibility with departments or Haley or whoever? We can't just have one person be it for the website. It's got to be a team, and we've already talked about that. It's going to be a team of people.
And it
But
is
what
a
does that
team
look
right
like?
now. We have 5 people that are on the communications team that all do a really good job of communicating for the different, well, 4 people that do a good job and take a hand in updating public works and police. And
So we'll have internal conversation what that looks like and then present what our thoughts are to you.
I totally do. I appreciate what you're saying. I agree that we don't want Bryce changing the website all the time.
it wouldn't be the first city that I've done it for. This would be the 3rd city. So I feel like it's my mission in life. So, but I'll be honest. I mean, it is a new system and it does scare me a little bit, especially in timing of, losing Haley for a little bit and, whatnot, and Lauren as well. So, I mean, there is some, but I can do it and we can train employees to help out as well. So I'm not too worried about it. So.
Okay.
Any other questions? The future looks bright. I didn't even put anything on that slide, so there you go. As bright as white. So, what's next?
Not you, attorney.
We should have just
Lisa.
got them all out.
No, you're good. Thank you.
Come back.
Thanks, Bryce.
Okay, time for a little break.
So council, we get to cross-examine you.
All right. Raise your right hand. I refuse to answer that question on the grounds.
Leave it there. You did do it.
Yes. Okay. Well, I can't see where you are. Okay, where did you begin? We're supposed to give a little introduction of our department, and so essentially I provide the legal counsel to the city council as well as the departments, and do a little bit of HR and contract review and a lot of land use and a lot of meetings. But I love my job. And so the next one, we were also asked to just kind of highlight our budget, the top line items in the operations. So as you know, we don't really have anything to do with the top part of the budget, but the operations you'll see from FY 2025 to 26, it's only gone up $400, which was in the miscellaneous supplies line item, just because sometimes office supplies get coded there, so I didn't want to go over on that one. But the big ones are the attorney services line item, books and subscriptions, education and training, which you had a few questions on, and special projects. So I'll just hit these, but attorney services, I think we've mentioned, this didn't used to be in the city attorney's budget, but occasionally we have need for outside counsel, or I think in years past, we might have used this to settle some minor disputes. But for instance, we might need to counsel with a water law attorney, specializing in water law. Again, we used it when we dissolved the community foundation. We also had some assistance with all of our legislative changes, but luckily those attorneys were paid for by the state. So we got about $14,000 worth of legal work to help us change our code from last year. Those funds are gone, so we'll be doing those in-house this year. So anyway, and this is kind of an interesting line item because you'll see, I think it kind of started in FY 2024 where we had $12,000 in this. And so that was where we were using it. And I like it because it's easier to code because I'm usually in charge of these things. And then when I get the bill from the outside attorneys, and we've used them for HR items as well, then I can just code that. But this year so far, we've only spent $1,100. So we're either not being as productive or I don't know. It could be that.
You've kept us safe.
For what it's worth, $10,000 is not gonna go far.
Exactly, you're right. It's just kind
It will
of.
not go far hiring outside counsel.
Yeah.
I can say this definitively.
Right, well, and I don't
It'll be
know,
about a day and a half.
It'll be
Well,
10 hours.
actually for the, yes.
10 hours of service over the year.
Yeah,
I'm not joking.
it's, yeah.
A lot of it's a placeholder, and things, but generally we don't hit the 10,000 except for a couple of years ago.
Here's the beauty. I mean, we have Lisa and you are extraordinary in a lot of the things that you do. So we are very blessed to have somebody that has your scope of skills because I think that you cover a lot of things that other cities may look to outside legal counsel for.
Yeah,
Yep.
Lisa,
we've even done some purchases, real estate purchases in-house, not that I love that, but if they're simple, we can handle them. And if
Did
you
you
go talk
use
to
your-
other cities.
did you use your intern this year?
Yeah,
Lisa,
did you? I had
You
the
didn't
same
get a
question.
chance to use your intern this year, did you?
Well, I just talked to Bethany today because I still have 2 more months. Last time I called the law school, they're like, oh, they have their summer jobs. And anyway, it wasn't a great conversation. So anyway, I think now is a good time. So I'm still going to try. And we were just talking about a project with community development that I think they can help us with. Like 2 months is about all we projected. So yes, so I have that.
Because if we can get them in this last month of the semester.
Exactly, yes. So I did attempt earlier, but I still want to use it for this year. And it is also one of my line items here in the special projects to try and get one for next year too. And I think that would help on some of these projects. It's hard to find time to like do the advertising and then the Zoom.
And that special project is the one you're referring to with community
Yes,
development?
yeah, so if you want to go down, well, we'll get to that slide, but yes, it's the intern is the line item for that, which is special projects line account 650.
Lisa, you may want to talk to the law school about trying to get one of these law students some kind of credit. Because if they would get credit and get a little bit of money in their pocket, you may get somebody particularly on the off season, right? If
Yeah.
you're not picking up the people during the summer when they're trying to get, AG jobs or firm jobs, but pick
True.
up somebody during the school year. As long as they're getting credit, you may get more.
Okay, that's
more
true.
Takers.
I think you talked about that last time too, but yes, I'll talk to him. I don't have my in there anymore. My classmate is in charge of that, and he just retired last year, so that's too bad. Okay, so the next line item or base expense in the operations is the books and subscriptions, but I think I told you in FY 2024, the end of it, I was fed up with Westlaw because they wouldn't give me the same rate as Bountiful. So I moved over to LexisNexis, which I've really been enjoying because they have the AI module and it's been great.
You've liked that a lot, Lisa?
I do,
Okay.
yeah.
You haven't used the Westlaw AI yet. It's
Oh,
pretty slick.
Okay, well, don't tell me about it. We can't afford it anymore.
I was gonna say, maybe, yeah.
If you want
Depends on
what
what
we can
they'll-
afford,
what-
that's fine.
Check their new rate, maybe
Yeah.
their new rate's better.
But I like this one because you'll see in FY 2023, and I do put other things in this budget, but it was about $5,000. And then when we switched over, it was down to $3,700. So far, 6-month actual for Lexis, $543.
That is insane.
So we are going to cut that by, anyway, 75%, hopefully. There's probably a couple bills that are not in there. But anyway, we'll cut it in half at least. And it'll be interesting after this because this will be a full fiscal year with just Lexis. So I'm happy about that, and we might be able to cut that budget line in half. Education and training is another one. We've recently been upping this, and I know you were talking about this with other departments, but I do appreciate Grant really supporting all the department heads and actually at every level in the city operation to get training and stay, relevant and up to date.
And I really appreciate that, and I certainly have attended more seminars. I obviously have to get my continuing legal education, which we do on an annual basis, which is 12 hours. And I get that all through my municipal attorneys conference. But I have recently been going to the Land Use Institute, which has been great, spring and fall, and then also the IRMA. And those last two ones I mentioned here, I didn't used to go to. So that's the increase in that.
I think it's wonderful, by the way, that you're going with those, but going along with the 3 other council people said, because you're the second department now in training, how come you can keep yours to 3,000 for one person, but it's 30,000 for 4 people? That's 2.5 times more per person on average in the administration department.
Well, I think the municipal attorneys, we're surprisingly lucky because the UMAA is a $100 membership fee, but that covers your conference. So actually, I only pay $100 to get my 12 hours of training in St. George, but we do pay for hotel and mileage. So I think that that's a little different than some of the other departments, or especially like the public works, where they have to get certain certifications with the water and things like that. But anyway, and then the IRMA is free, if I recall. So again, that one is just the lodging, really. And then the ULI, the Utah Land
offsetting free conference training.
What's that?
It's the billable hours in the legal community that offsets the free training.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, my conferences are negligible in cost other than the lodging. So maybe that's probably it. Okay.
That might be why it might be helpful to see some of what is going on from a holistic perspective.
And some people are even more interested in training. Like I know Corey and I, anyway, we go to the bare minimum. So, but I have been mentored to do more and to do more networking. And I do think these trainings actually help all of us do more networking. And therefore we actually feed off of that. And I learn a lot, and then each conference I try to get another mentor, someone I can call when I have questions. So it's worthwhile. So then just the last high dollar one, which is the proposed $5,000 for the intern. I've had that, this year. I'm planning to use it and I would like it, but as I mentioned here, this is a discretionary line item. If things get tight, this one can go. And I don't have any intended capital equipment or any of those. And as Bryce said, future looks
Lisa,
bright.
how often do you need a new computer? How often have you been rotating through those?
My last one we got during the pandemic with the funds. So it's probably on like a 4-year cycle.
And is Lisa kind of tracking that through everybody?
Yeah, and I actually think that's in a different fund. So normally I would have to. And
Okay.
I think in miscellaneous supplies, I put the 500 because I wouldn't mind a new monitor, but that's probably capital. But anyway.
We have a computer replacement program that's active.
Yeah.
Typically every 3 years.
So I think we took it out of our budget, so it was easier to.
I've just upgraded to 2 mega monitors plus my laptop.
Oh, I can't. That sounds good.
We're actually going away from some services to some departments and going to desktops for some employees that
They don't travel.
they don't travel, they don't move, things like that, so there's cost savings.
Yeah. And I actually have both. Lisa's been really great to humor me, but I like having, it's actually a laptop, but I call it my desktop.
Yes.
So that I can take this everywhere. So I have that one and then I have this, which is great because sometimes one is down and then, the other one's working. So I really like having a backup. But that's the ancient one.
Side by side.
I think that one is, actually she said I'm probably going to have to give that one
Comparing
up when we go
documents
to
on a
Windows 11.
larger screen has been,
Oh, yeah.
and spreadsheets
Really
on the
nice.
other screen.
I agree.
So, yeah.
Okay, any questions for me?
Why is your medical insurance
Dropping? Oh, I'm single.
down 2%?
We didn't need any personal.
Sorry, I didn't.
But we appreciate your generosity.
Sorry, you could have just said none of your business.
Okay, on that note, I'm so sorry. Any other questions?
So good.
Like to ask forgiveness.
Gosh, who's next?
Me.
Okay, good, Dave. David.
Thanks.
Finance.
Thank you, Lisa.
Finance.
And then when you want me to do the next one.
All right.
I mean, really, I didn't, so I put mine in Acrobat and made all my notes in there so I can blow it up, because I cannot read this.
All right, so here's the finance department. We're a relatively new staff, but they're awesome. So if you haven't had a chance to meet them, please do so. We have our treasurer, Ron. Natalie is, I think she started in September, if I remember right.
I had somebody call me that, I don't know, to tell me how wonderful she was over there.
It's good, I'll pass that along to her.
No,
She is awesome.
I just had this random person call me, telling me they had a dealing with the city, and they dealt with Natalie, and they wanted to know that she was an excellent public service person.
This is one of the areas where the IT services has gone up.
Yes.
So Bryce, I think it was Bryce that was asking me to give an example. Here's an example.
It's our favorite topic. One of the things we love to talk about.
The IT services here is just our Windows, the Windows package.
Okay.
No, that's involved.
It's totally fine. I wasn't like trying, there's not a problem with it. It was just more of a curiosity for me.
Real quick, Natalie also did she put together the cover of this budget, the flowers, and made it all look nice, so.
I like it.
All right, there wasn't a lot of changes in my budget. The biggest increase was for our audit, and that's a contractual increase of about 3% a year. So the audit will now cost us $21,300. If we need a single audit, which we most likely will with the grant money for the tank, then we'll have to pay for that single audit of $4,000. But that's
Is that
okay
one of
if
the
we need it.
requirements as part of our grant? that we have
So
to
anytime we receive, it was 750,000. I think it's going up to $1 million now. I can't remember if it's this
audit? But
year.
are they just
next year.
auditing draws at that point, or is it a full city audit related to the grant?
No, so the audit is city for the whole city. A single audit is just for federal funds.
But is the audit just for the project itself, or is the special single audit across the whole entire city? Does that
Yeah.
question make sense?
Yeah, more at just the federal funds itself. So we do receive more than just the grant. Like the police have a few grants,
Okay, that's right.
like the JAG grant, which is it's small, but it's something. So whenever they do a single audit, they just have to do their sampling of federal funds to make sure that it was expended correctly and reported properly, and all that. So we didn't use it this past fiscal year, but we probably will this year and next year with the tank monies. Last thing, I put a channel my inner around Swanson and tried to cut back, slashed my operations 2%, but the total budget for our state about the same. So, looking into the future, just note that our audit fees through the rest of our contract will increase about 3% a year. And then our department has a goal to make it so that nobody ever has to come into City Hall unless they want to. So we're looking at forms and online payment options, so that, if you're requesting a new garbage can, you can do it online. All of those types of things that they would come into City Hall, we're trying to make it all online. Express Bill Pay has a slick system because it also accepts payment if it's like if you're adding a garbage can, it can take your deposit for it, but it seemed a little bit pricey, so we're looking at options. I was hoping to have that done this year, but the drainage stuff has consumed a lot of my time and I haven't got to it. So hopefully next year is looking better.
Is there other companies that do the billing and would do some of this other stuff too?
Yes. I've done a demo with one of them. The part of my hesitancy is we have an excellent online payment rate with our utility bills.
Yeah.
Express bill pay.
To get away from it. It's a whole, everybody has to re-register.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of, some of these other companies that I've done a demo with, they brag that they have such a great online take rate, but then they look at ours and they're always taken aback by how well we do with online payments. So I think there's some maybe better systems, more user-friendly at least from our end. But we've had such a great take rate with Express that I'm hesitant to change it.
I'm hesitant to say this. One thing people really like is that they take credit cards and they don't charge. Now, I'm not saying that's to our benefit because we're obviously paying the 3%, but people do like that.
Yeah, and that's our policy decision, which is always
The rec center, we transitioned away from eating it to charging.
How much do we eat?
Is it 3%?
about 3%.
No, I recognize that. I mean,
The nominal amount?
yes.
Yeah, the total nominal.
How much do we eat by covering the 3%?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I guess I'm just surprised. I'm not aware of anybody who eats the credit card fees.
It's 3%, but then some people
Typically,
probably
it's
pay right out of their
More like
accounts.
2.5, but yeah.
They don't pay out of, on their credit card.
I'd
So
have to get
just-
back to you on that.
Just the ones that pay on their credit card. But I have people say that I do it that way because I get it. So does it get us our bills paid better and more on time because they,
I would actually be curious to know that. Because I don't care if people want to take it out of their checking account, but if we're eating a lot of fees on something so that somebody can put it on a credit card and get the points, I won't
They
do
should,
that.
they should cover the fee.
They should cover the fee.
Yeah,
Having a
I can
card
get that
done,
information
they
for you.
just have to put it on the credit card.
Or pull it out of their account. Yeah, I want to see what that is.
I don't see a lot of government entities eating the fees. It seems like if you're, the
And I don't know
school,
how many
anywhere I
credit card
go,
transactions
if I,
we actually do. For the rec center, it was totally different because there are a lot of transactions that are processed. So we were eating upwards of $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 a year in credit card
That's quite a
fees.
bit.
Whereas
If
Here
it's
to
de
see,
minimis
I-
here, I'm not going to worry about it. I would just be curious.
We have permits that get up there into a lot of money, so that was a big deal in Yuma back
Yeah,
in
that's
2010.
true. If it's a permit,
we-
even,
In
Absolutely
2010,
not.
we
Permit
actually
fee.
said, no, you can't pay, it's only by check to get away from
Yes.
credit cards, because the laws back then were a little tricky to get around.
or
credit cards.
ACH.
I'm doing a remodel and those guys are not taking my credit card. They send me a link to connect my check to it. And if I do the credit card, I'm paying the fee. So I think you're seeing more and more of that.
I'm seeing a lot of it.
I'm not saying, if it's minimal, I don't think we should worry about it, but I still don't think it's a bad idea to just say,
Yeah. So I have,
I was always shocked we didn't.
in
Did it
fiscal year
pass on the-
22,
Yeah.
The service charge.
fiscal year 22, so it's a little bit outdated, but we took just shy of 60,000 total payments, and 49,000 of those were online payments.
But not all online
So it's
payments are
maybe
credit cards.
1,500
But
bucks.
not all are credit cards.
So it's probably like $1,500.
Yeah,
no, it's not a lot.
It's not,
15 to
if it's only
25.
$1,500, I'm not worried about it.
probably my guess.
I would have thought it would have been more than that.
Again, I'd have to do some research on that.
I don't know, actually, but there's $1,500 going out.
There is,
That-
but maybe some of those we are getting payments on time and
And we may not, for just what you just said, they use the credit card because they're a little short that month, but we
Right.
get paid on
And we get
time.
paid on time, so we're the lucky one that gets paid and we're not spending staff time out trying to collect.
And they'll still use that credit card, but if we shift it over and we make it equitable to everyone, because ultimately they're getting a benefit from using a credit card, and we're covering that cost.
But maybe we're getting a benefit too because we get paid on time. I mean, I think you brought the point up.
I did.
It was a good one.
There's always two sides to every
Yeah.
coin.
I don't know in a city environment if you can build in your fees, but I know in my CPA firm years back, CPAs didn't want to take credit cards because we're so cheap, but we don't want to pay the fee. And I just said, well, build it into your rates.
Correct.
you know?
Yeah.
Because, if we didn't take credit card nowadays, there's a lot of payments you never get.
We just give our clients options. You want to ACH it,
So-
great, it's that amount. You want to put it on a credit card, that's fine, but we're going to add this service charge because
So Balance City does too.
Yeah.
We did a demo last week with a software company, rec software company that they actually, that's their whole model is the software is free, but they charge the credit card fee and then the user pays the fee to use the software. So I've seen it a few other times. I think it's a trend. So.
Nate, in your line item, and this is more of a global question, because one of the items on the admin marketing budget was uniforms, but there's uniforms for multiple departments. So I would want to know, back to the admin under marketing, how much is being allocated for uniforms when there's already a uniform line item in admin, a uniform line item in finance and public works, in GIS and streets, etc.
Yeah.
So in the admin budget, in that marketing, the uniforms, we took a chunk, we outfitted all of the boards and commissions. So that's part of that.
Okay.
And then also we allocated some money in that branding effort for volunteer efforts. So like if we did a service project like 4th of July or a community cleanup or whatever we did, allocate somebody to do a bunch of
So these are
t-shirts.
like t-shirts.
Just t-shirts.
Okay.
So that's why there's branding money uniform in that one.
Okay.
So different from each individualized department, so. Does that
Okay,
make sense?
so I'm sorry, I want to mark this. You said it was under marketing.
Well, it's lumped in with marketing.
I can give you a detail,
On
like
the
Brent just told me
admin.
not to put a lot of detail into it, but I can give you
It was a long list of things.
I agree.
It was park signs, flags, supplies, uniform. There was a lot of different things.
Yeah, so in fact, if it would be beneficial, I can send you what the current,
Like the breakout of marketing.
I can show you the current monies that we spent for this year's budget in an Excel spreadsheet. You can see everything we spent. And then I'll kind of give you an idea of kind of what some of it will be next year, but there are some things next year that we didn't do in this one. So I have it broken down in the line item so you can see it.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's nothing hiding, so.
Nate, not to beat a dead horse, I would like to see the information with regard to the credit card fees, and not just how much, but in what bill types are people paying credit cards? Like, is it
Break them
builders,
out.
is it builders
Break
that
them
are
out to
putting it
permits
on, right,
versus utilities.
utilities, because, I mean, I know even if it's only $1,500, like, every dollar matters here, and I want to see where that is. Because I was surprised, I didn't realize that we were covering those.
I definitely don't want to pay it on permits and fees, because those are,
Yeah.
Well, for sure.
to me, that's like, I don't know, it's different when you're working with an applicant for permits and fees than it is
Businesses as
residents.
opposed to residents.
Pass it on
Yeah.
to the consumer. I mean, when I pay my property taxes, I pay the fee to the county
Yeah.
to use my credit card because it's a greater benefit to use my credit card than to not pay, just to pay the fee, so.
Yeah, it's a project that Mike Eggett and I have talked about, relooking at those permitting and development type fees.
Okay.
So are we not charging credit card on these?
We don't charge any credit card fee for anything.
For anything, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to look at it for sure.
Yeah, I'll get that information for you.
Yeah, it's amazing on my contractor stuff, how much I'm like, I'm not paying that 3%. I'm paying it up as it is.
Nothing else, we can go on to emergency management.
We finished all that.
What's that? Yeah, I called up as a vet, so.
All right, emergency management. This is one of our smaller budgets, partly because of all the help we get from the community, you know, through the Citizen Corps. That group's still going fairly strong. We're still meeting monthly. Anyway, see. So right now, we're splitting the duties between Louisa McDonald and myself. Right now, I'm officially the emergency manager for the city. She's the assistant. And she put in here a little bit about kind of some of the threats we face as a city and some of the things we're working towards in mitigation and preparation to handle these emergencies as they come up. I mean, as far as highlights for the budget, the only thing only major change is education and training. Last year, traditionally the budget's right around $3,000, and last year we inflated it to $8,000 to cover a rewrite of our emergency operations plan. And so now that that's been paid for, then we're gonna drop it back down to $3,000 again. And that training mostly covers for Louisa and I to go to the UEMA, the Utah Emergency Managers Conference, as well as occasionally at the Utah Safety Summit, which is another emergency management.
So Chief, it was in education and training, but you were rewriting the emergency plan. Did this require training? Is that why it's in that budget, or that just was where you decided to put it?
That's where it kind of fit.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes we stick things where there's a spot for it, especially when it comes to a one-time
Okay.
need. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Also, I noticed that there is no funding for the prep fair. Is that because of what you said about the citizen court?
So the prep fair is a self-funded program, paid for through booth registrations, sponsorships.
Okay.
And so we have we just finished up a prep fair last September, and we're planning another one probably in May of 26. And so we have some seed money in there already left over, and then we'll start collecting. And so that, yeah, it's all self-funded. All the South End cities participate, but we don't put in any money.
As they gain sponsorships, we'll do a budget amendment to recognize the revenue and then add the expense here as well.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, normally
It'll be a zero-sum game.
yeah, we'll make the change and improve it, but it's still, what goes in comes out, and it's zero. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I have the benefit of not having to deal with the back end stuff, making it work.
Okay.
All right, capital equipment projects. We're working on, we're wanting to rewire some of the EOC lines that we have a training room, which also doubles as our emergency operations center. And some of the wiring can be revamped and made to be more efficient, have a cleaner setup. In the CCC, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the city is split up into 4 different districts, and within the districts, there's about 9 areas in each district. I don't know if that sounds familiar to anybody. And one of the key components of the CC as far as the city is concerned, is communications during an event. Us being able to communicate out information, and then for the different areas to get the information back into us and how they're doing and their needs. And one of those, and the way we do that is through radios and through the ECC, Emergency Communications Center. Anyway, so right now we're working on getting radios replaced back into all the areas, which is, well, luckily the radios are fairly cheap now. It's amazing how cheap radios have become. Unfortunately, they're out of China, so there may be some impact. But right now, they're only $25 a piece, which is astounding considering we used to pay probably 6 times that much for a radio. And the radios are much better, they've got longer lasting batteries, easily be recharged. So, anyway, but each district, right, each state is going to need about 18 radios. So it's going to take a little bit of time to roll it all out, but we're working on that.
How long do you think that'll take?
We should be able to do it within this next budget year. So this budget year combined with next budget year, we should have it done. fact, this coming on the 17th, so a week from Thursday, we're having the shakeout, the Utah Great Shakeout, 10:15 a.m. The state wants everyone to simulate an earthquake happening, so wherever you're at 10:15, you duck cover, you go to safety, and then you respond just like you would during an earthquake, right? You secure yourself. Once the state shaking stops, you get yourself out of the building somewhere safe. So here in the building, we're going to be doing a simulation of that with employees, and we're going to have a little briefing after a hot wash where we kind of talk about the earthquake and what we can expect as a city here. Our officers are going to be doing rapid damage assessments simulated in the city, where they're going to go and check critical infrastructure, right? First thing they're going to do is they're going to check I-15, the overpass structure, pages. They're going to be checking the mountainside to see if the main Weaver Basin water line got damaged, right? Are we having flooding in the city? Are we having any major fires? And they're going to be reported back. So that's what we're going to be doing in the city at 10:15 in the morning. Then that night,
What day was that again?
the 17th. And anyone's more than welcome to come. Show up a few minutes before 10:15 and then just hang on, right? Get somewhere safe. And then afterwards, we meet out in the middle of the parking lot. That's our rally point for City Hall, Public Works. They have their own point wherever you guys meet after your. So then that night, the CCC is going to have their own shakeout exercise, and it's going to concentrate on communications. So we're going to set up the EOC here downstairs, and it's going to be, the radio is going to be staffed, and then all the different districts and areas are going to practice radioing in information and seeing how that works and seeing where our deficiencies are. Anyway, so not a lot to do with budget. Sorry.
Well, actually, from what we spoke of last meeting, 18 of those radios, are you going to be able to get 18 radios before the 17th? Or?
They're supposed to be in today, maybe tomorrow.
We probably got that in today.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got them in.
So you didn't get them.
But you're talking $1,000, so it's kind of a little hit to our budget. But like I said, it is, during an emergency, communications is paramount, right? If you don't have communications, then.
China will be listening in with their radios and saying, "Oh, Centerville, there's some emergency."
Oh, they're gonna be so happy. They're gonna be like, "This is working out perfect." No.
Found a good deal though.
Yeah, if they want to listen in on our CCC, go. I think they have better things to listen to though. All right. And then the future outlook. One thing we've been working towards is, and it's something that's kind of up in the air, is having the police chief be the emergency manager isn't always the most efficient use of the position. During an emergency, there's a lot that I'll be worrying about, police department wise, public safety wise, and Chief Child was always great about balancing that and juggling it. But even he said that during an emergency, his primary job was to be the chief. So we've been working with Louise McDonald. She's amazing. She's been going to a lot of training. She's finishing up her degree right now. And we're working towards transferring a lot of duties onto her and potentially making her an emergency manager, the emergency manager in the future. That's something we're working towards, still kind of up in the air, and we'll see how things roll out. But that really is kind of the future we're looking at right now.
It's some future date, and of course, this could be way out, but it'd be nice to see or discuss, brainstorm how you see that kind of hierarchy of duties in an emergency as you hope to make that transition. Like, the emergency manager is in charge of the emergency, but who is he, she reporting to, or who's reporting to her? And is that kind of like flip-flop chain of command during an emergency? That'd be an interesting discussion, I think.
Right. So right now we're finishing up the EOC, our EOP, Emergency Operations Plan. That's the thing that we paid the $5,000 for in this current budget year to have written. And then we're kind of working through it right now and making it more personalized and kind of cleaning it up. And that will spell out more specifically chain of command. Because your emergency manager may or may not be in charge of everything.
Is
Emergency
it more of a
manager.
coordinator position?
Exactly,
Okay.
right. So the emergency manager is more about getting things trained, getting things set up, running things, at various levels, running things, but mostly just making sure that we're ready. I mean, we could have various people be the incident commander, I don't see when it happens, and the EOC manager, and there's lots of different positions.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we really do need someone kind of coordinating, and that's what the emergency manager does.
Okay, perfect.
Questions on the budget? How did I do on time?
Well, good.
Do I need to waste some more time?
No, we still have time for elections.
So 3 minutes for elections.
Elections on page 18. The quote that we got from the county who handles our election is about 18,500 per election. That's a primary and a general election. Obviously, we won't know if we need a primary until people sign up. But yeah, that's the cost they quoted us. Youth count.
That's pretty close to what it's been we haven't had one for a while, so.
2022, it was 32,877.
Look at you. Thank you. Okay.
Mayor, you want to take a break?
Yeah, I was gonna, based on the schedule, we're probably halfway through, right? Does people want a break, 5 minutes?
Yes, please.
We don't want your volume.
Okay.
I was gonna trade sugar for salt.
If I have my.
I think 31.
I'm gonna see.
I've got to leave by then. I can stay till 8:35.
We gotta go fast, because we're losing 2 people right there, it sounds like.
You're leaving too.
I'll leave.
Mine would be.
Me, I'm good now, man. I can do this all night long.
Okay. Yeah, I can figure that out, maybe. We'll see how it goes. Mayor, City Council, happy to be here again, I guess. Thanks for letting me bump up. I've got a little bit going on home I need to get to. Anyway, I want to introduce my crew. You guys know my crew. I don't know how far I really need to go into that. It says that I have 20 full-time staff. I really have 21, but you'll have to figure out where the one's coming from. So anyhow, if you have any questions, ask Warren. So, but anyway, it's only a short time expenditure for us. So, but we're happy to see things going well for her. So anyway, this is our staff. Dave's going to talk a little bit tomorrow night, or Thursday night, if I get it straight, about our water crew. But our street crew has been established, our mechanics have been established, our GIS is established. You guys all know who they are. Dave will introduce the new guy in the drainage a little bit more, and we'll kind of go to that staff. But that's our crew. We're proud of our crew. We're thankful for all that they do for us. They're trying hard and trying to learn everything they can. And you know, we talked a little bit about education, and it's like we have to give everything we can to these guys to educate them and help them move forward, help them get their water certifications and things like that. So the next slide, I want to go off. Maybe I'll just turn past these. So somebody asked for a current list. Oh, thanks, I appreciate that. The current list of grants. This is our current list of grants. I've made a slight change. Some of you have seen these before, but what I've done is put into it showing the years that we're moving forward with it. So these are WFRC grants that we've received. There's different types of WFRC grants we received. There's the one from the Ferguson group that we received. Right now, we're working on a $3 million one for a new well and transmission line with the Ferguson group. With the things that are going on in the government right now, we're trying to see where we're going with that. I will say that I rely on them quite heavily when we start talking about getting into these big grants. As I said before, my feeling on the Ferguson group is they're the ones that are going to try to hit it out of the ballpark and pull us down some big dollar stuff. But you can see that we're still pulling in a lot of grants.
This is, currently $12 million of grants. The coppers that I need from city council is roughly 2.3 million. So with this broke out in years, you can kind of see where we're going with grants. If you flip it over on the back side, there is one more, but then there's also the completed grants. So I'd like keeping the grants on there because I do believe that's money that we've saved our citizens, right? So I feel that this is a really important document. I will give you one quick update. WFRC came to us and asked us to move up on 1250 West. We got, remember, we told you we got the grant from Parish Lane to Second North. We've had that one, but they want us to jump ahead and do from Second North to West Bountiful. They would like to do that all in one project. We visited with Nate and Brant and got their support for moving forward in 27, if I got that right. But what we can do is get in there and start saving money. By having that one big project, I think we can save a lot of money. We can save inflation, and we can do the job a little bit cheaper. Now, one thing to keep in mind, like in all of our budget, is we go out years and everything, forecasting. We look at current costs, but that doesn't include what it could be. It could be less, it could be more. That's just something I can't give you an actual number on. So, you look at these, like I say, Kevin has been instrumental in helping get these grants. It was interesting when WFRC got a hold of Kevin and says, hey, look, can you guys move forward because your city's ready to go? And we know that you guys work very hard in getting things ready and happening. And so we're jumping in front of it, not really jumping in front, but other cities are not ready to go with their grants. And so we're able to move ahead and get it done. What does that do for us in the long haul? In my opinion, that gives us a better chance of getting more grants, more money from them, is how I view it. I could be viewing it wrong, but that's how I look at it. And then also you're a player, right? You're doing and moving forward, and I think they see that. And I think we're making good use of our money. We're making, we're helping, we're trying to move forward with it. So what I'd like to do is ask if you have any questions about grants. A lot of this stuff, I'll be honest, is over my head. But I can try to answer any questions. All I care about is the money. That's kind of where I'm at with this. Kevin worries about the rest. I worry about the money.
And those of all the grants, they're all WFRC named by another three. Those quite a few of them come from WFRC.
They do. And, Kevin's been instrumental over the years. A lot of the question was asked a couple city councils ago, how far back are we going on the grants? The Clean Air grant was prior to the other Public Works Director, Randy, that was here. But after that, that's basically probably, 5, 6 years back. So the rest of these are all current grants that we've been achieving. So there may be more that I'm missing or whatever, but this is kind of in my interim, if you want to call it that way, but it's kind of what our team is bringing to the table, which to me, I think is huge. The biggest thing I need from you guys is the support to have the money there for us to keep moving forward. The reservoir grant with the Ferguson Group, we're getting the green light starting to come with EPA, so we're moving forward. We're still projecting to start moving dirt in May. We have Patriot on board. I think there was like 6 questions on the last bill that they sent us that they wanted us to fill out. So the next item, I'll go back, I'm sorry. The next item is a box culvert. So this spring they want to do the lower part way up, and then in the fall they want to finish it all the way up to Main Street. So hopefully a year from now that box culvert will be gone, and then we'll be working on having a trail that people can go up and down, hopefully curb and gutter on the side of the road. So it'll be a great enhancement. We talked about the Oak Ridge tank. We have 65 miles of road that we maintain, which is pavement, gravel, and graded roads. That's what our street department does. Our city crews crack fill about 50 to 60 tons. I'll get more into that here in a minute, what that savings is to the city. The water rate that I'm asking for our city council to approve this year is 5%. You can see the brass, the fittings, and the PVC is kind of what I got, but we also have a 14.6, which is a couple lines down, increase from Weaver Basin water. So 5% doesn't quite cover it, but I think we'll be okay. That's what I need in that area. Our water department does 106 miles, 0.6 miles of water main and services. That's a lot of main when you stop to think about it, a lot of maintaining. We have 5,165 services. And it's the last statement I believe to be true. You know, Public Works is trying to do as much as we can with about the same amount of money. As you see, as we go through our budget, we're not asking for a lot of increases. Some of them, like in the street, we're just trying to balance things out a little bit in the way that we go. So any questions on that slide? I know I'm rolling kind of fast, but anyway. Public Works Administration.
Just before, I think we're gonna talk about this more when we go to the enterprise funds, but streets come out of general fund. Can we have a discussion at some point about the potential for fees for streets?
Well, we'll talk about that in a few seconds.
Oh, sorry, okay.
So, thanks. But it's a good reminder for me because I may forget the state that I'm in right now. So, Public Works Administration, we've got office supplies. We need to increase to $300, which is not a big deal. Small tools, $1,500. And then you're fully aware of the IT services that we have. So normally, going to the capital equipment, you know, normally our trucks are bought from the water department. Nate and Brandon wanted to move that into the Public Works Administration. So bottom line, normally we'd be asking for this out of the water department, but now we're asking for it out of Public Works Administration, which is the proper accounting way. I believe that the way that Nate and Brandon's doing this is the right way. This is one where we'll sell the trucks and see how close we come to what our goal was. The way things are kind of going, we may get lucky with the tariffs and do really well, or who knows? It's an economy that I can't predict.
You're gonna sell your used ones for more, and you're gonna pay more for the new ones.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you know, hopefully we can get in there soon enough and find some, but I kind of doubt it, but we'll see.
Mike, I don't see the $3,000 in capital budget for the front counter remodel.
Okay, so that's
different.
Yeah, that'll be in Bruce's budget, but I wanted you to be aware of that.
Okay.
That's something we're asking. We're finishing up a few things, but we'll have some final touches, some furniture that we want to finish that.
Public Works building.
Yeah.
Building.
Public Works building.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's the right word to put it, but it's, you know, this has been nice. It's been a good enhancement. What we had was there since we built the building. I feel like it's looking more professional. Like I say, we need to finish up a few things. And right after the budget here, if you guys approve that, we can move forward fairly fast. We have a computer, tablet, and a tower that we need to replace that is on the change out. So I can't remember if I went over that or not. So where's Public Works Administration going in the future? You can see that the web training we're trying to get, and it was interesting, you know, seeing what people feel like my administrative assistant's doing. Lauren's doing a great job. And she moves forward very well. She takes the information. She's been handling a lot of the stuff for the parish lane improvements right now, but there's a lot of goals and aspirations that I have for her. You know, one of them is we're working on online stuff. We want to move a lot, like, let me just use one for an example, and there's many. Addressing. So addressing is one that we do, that we exchange papers back and forth. One of them that me and Lauren's been working on and trying to get pushed over is a resident goes in, they go do all their part, they send us the fee amount, and then we go in to do our part. And then hopefully they'll never have to come into to see us to get an address change. Like the other day, a suite. Somebody wanted to add a suite to a building. That's things that we can do. Just, I think, online. So she's looking at those kind of things. She's done excavation permits. It turned out really well. At first, I was a little skeptical where City Hall had to take the money, and then we did the permit down there, but it's worked out great. I think I haven't heard of any complaints as far as I know and what we're doing. So we're trying to streamline Public Works Administration. I want to see her do a few more things like that. One of the areas that is one of my big goals is emergency management. I want to have Lauren to where she could sit, or whoever the public works assistant is to be able to sit in the EOC and understand all public works, to understand exactly what goes on, so that, let's just say that happened now, she could sit in the EOC, me and Dave could be out doing hazard assessments, finding out what we need to do to get things going. So to me, if I can train somebody that's knowledgeable and can take care of that role in the EOC, I mean, I've been in the EOC on many emergencies, and it's like, okay, I feel like my skills is better out in the field. But I can have somebody I can train to do that, and that's kind of where our goals in Public Works Administration wants to go. So I talked about the $3 million grant that we're working on. So grants is something that I like to be in the portfolio of the Public Works Administration, that we're looking for those and trying to find out whatever we can. So any questions so far? And if you have questions on the grants, feel free to get with me. Okay, we're ready for the street department. Okay, so this is basically the budget highlights. Our maintenance is still going up. We're looking at a $4,000 increase in the maintenance repairs and that. Our 478 with the signals, so we had a decrease of $8,200 because there wasn't any big major projects we needed to do this year. So as you can see, we're trying to move things where it makes sense. So in signs, we had another decrease of $8,500 because there was no RRFBs that we had in the budget to replace, unless you guys come up with, you want to put one somewhere, we have to add it back in the budget. So street light repairs, we're still finding repairs that were, cables have been hit or what have you to get everything up and going. So we're figuring like 16,000, but we're hoping that we're trying to hit the hump of this and that our costs will start going back down on street lights. I can't tell you how pleased I am with Black and McDonald, with them taking out, going out once a month and looking at the lights. We get a few phone calls, but most of the time, if they want, they can do it online. The biggest problem that we have is, let's just say that Rocky Mountain Power owns a street light. The problem that we're having is we report it to them and we can't get them to repair them as fast as Black and McDonald's fixing ours. So we get citizens that complain to us, and Lauren has to explain, well, it's Rocky Mountain Power, but we report it for you. So that's one thing that Black and McDonald does for us that I think is a good deal. So street sweeping is gone up 18,000. That's due to the increased cost through the new contract that we just had. So
how many people did we bid that out to?
I think we had 3. Is that about right, Dave?
Yeah, we had 3 people come in on that bid this year.
Okay. So we'll move to the capital equipment. So we got in the budget for another CV plow equipment. I feel like these are a good way to go in most cases for our city. They're a versatile truck that's able to move around and be able to, cover a lot of territory fairly fast. They're a little bit more maneuverable than the bobtail plows and that. We have the mini excavator that's in our trade out. We're estimating that we'll probably get 90,000 or so. Nate can correct me if I'm wrong, but about $90,000 back for trading ours in and getting the new one. So it's trying to keep new equipment in our fleet so that we don't have to make the large expenditures. So we have the bobtail truck. You can see the cost for that. You pretty well know the routine on that one. There are a couple computers that need to be updated. And then the one that wasn't, that it should be in future, but I'm going to throw it in here, was we're looking at a 10-wheeler with a plow and to roll off so that we can look at like glass recycling. I heard, a little bit about glass recycling. I was taking care of another problem, but since we've got the other containers, I don't know we've had that many complaints that I've heard. They're emptying them every other week, so it's a savings to the city for the dumping cost. And I think it's going really quite well. So we're quite pleased. We're stealing a lot of Ember bottles, but I guess whatever, right? So I don't know what that means anyway. I got told that one day. I still wonder, but anyway.
Mm-hmm. What's a roll-off and plat?
Okay, so a roll-off would be you have like a chassis, okay? And so what you would do is you would go up, say it's a dump or dump, like the ones in parking lot. So you come up to it, you hook on it, you raise the bed up and it pulls up.
Yep.
And it comes on and then you lower it down and it goes. So there's a lot of attachments. There's a solder you can put on it.
Okay.
You
Yes.
can put a dump truck on it. You can
Yeah.
put a flatbed truck,
Right.
which that's one that I'd like to do. Then we get rid of our old flatbed out of the fleet. You know, then it allows us to do some of our decant hauling off as well. And then obviously we could start hauling our own glass if we wanted to. So anyway, that's a future need.
That's the $402,000 one?
Yes.
Okay.
And there is an asterisk next to every one of these, that we don't know how the tariffs will impact these items.
Yeah.
So there potentially
Is
could
that
be
the
an
budget,
increase
what
of
you know?
25% for each one of these.
Yeah.
So, then that's a big reason why we took the 402 off, is because of the potential tariff costs.
What's that?
Just, the roll-offs also gives you the option of having multiple dumpsters that you could set for prime waste collection.
Correct.
And then go and pick those up and dump them and bring them back.
So make this pretty universal is what it is.
We like the piece of equipment. In fact, I was pretty excited about it, but to stay within budget, we had to drop something.
And we
prioritize
support
the
that.
other
We're,
ones.
we're good with that. So projects this year, 4th West, 1700 North to Summer Hill Lane. I know that we need to probably have a little bit more discussion on that. That's covered in the transportation budget. Our goal for next year is to finish up Peachtree. We want to take and get Weaver Basin out of town. So that will be the last segment that they have in town that they need to fix. And both Kevin and I feel that that's important to get that done while they're playing with us, so to speak. You know, they're willing to do whatever it takes to get going, and then they've been a good working partner. Scott Paxman, I think, well, I shouldn't say for him, but we never know when he could leave. So anyhow, we want to try to, whether we got really good working relationships, we'd like to use that and move forward with that. So we got slurry seals and overlays as normal funded. So the crack sealing, Dave brought this up to me and I appreciated him doing that. So our crack sealing, the 50 to 60 tons, he looked up what the state contract. So this is the equipment, the labor, everything that we're doing with our crews right now is $2,900 a ton. So with our guys doing approximately 60 ton, that's an $80,000 savings to our city. So how does that benefit us? We're able to get more roads done. So it is labor intensive. Our guys are trying to figure out, you know, how to do everything that they need to do, but they're also out basically taking the $70,000 and doing an $80,000 project, so to speak. So I think that's huge in my mind, and I really, like I say, I appreciate Dave digging into that one a little bit and helping us out.
Where are the street projects?
On
Okay,
page
that's-
62 in the
60.
transportation.
Yeah, okay.
We'll be hitting that too.
These are all overlay projects.
Yeah.
Is the three that are, sorry, go back up for a minute, the 400 West, 1700 North, that's not an overlay? Is that in?
That's RDA, and it's kind of a rebuild on it.
Wait, the 400
Wait.
west? The
Yeah.
1700
Which,
north?
which line item is that one?
Well, I'm trying to just see what,
I'm just seeing
how
which line
this
item in the
compares
budget.
to the budget.
Yeah, so which one is that line
The
item?
400 West,
So if we get,
1700
to the transportation, we can look at that a little closer. If not, we'll bounce back.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
Does that
That's
sound
fine.
fair?
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just trying to keep up with it and get the.
Yeah.
I'm talking fast.
You're doing great.
Thanks, appreciate that. Anyway, so talking about future needs, we talked about the roll-off. We're always gonna have equipment in the street department. I mean, that's their main source of everything that they do. You can read the list as I can sit there and go through it. That is a future need. And I think it's good for you guys to understand that. And, you know, bottom line is, we talked about this, and it's, where do we come up with more coppers? And I do believe it's the road fee, transportation fee that we're looking at. I mean, I think we need to pull in another $1 million in order to keep up with the roads and where we're going. You know, Mark has said it, I don't know if he put math to it or not, but he says we're building roads for 130 years. So we go on the road, it's 130 years before we get to it. You know, I know it's a lot more than what we want it to be. So anyhow, so the
And this
road
goes
fee, I
back
think,
to the
needs to
earlier
be,
discussion about property tax increases is just the roll-off.
Yeah.
is equivalent to a 20%.
I do
property tax
think
increase. If we
there.
did the 2% is equal to 45 grand, multiply that by 10, you got that 440 grand-ish number.
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta be honest, I hate fees, but it's like, how do you keep up with this? That's the hard thing. How do you keep your roads in good repair? You know, your water mains and everything that's underneath the roads and everything, it's all fee
And I
based, right?
actually like the idea of, in the future, if we're able to, because we had this whole discussion about the transportation utility fee and whatnot, and whether we could do it or not from a taxation standpoint. But I like these enterprise funds being their own silos, because effectively communicating with residents, those projects are associated with that, which means on the flip side, you would have a decrease in a property tax going to capital projects because they would go into their own enterprise fund. Is that tracking?
Yeah, yes, but that is the problem with streets, right? It doesn't have an enterprise fund.
Right,
It has to
exactly.
come out of the general fund.
Yeah.
And we get, a lot of help from WFRC, obviously, but the other thing is I think you can, my understanding of it, and it's limited, is that, then you can kind of try to balance some of the uses, like maybe you're assessing a little higher fee around the commercial areas so that is, taken care of with that additional traffic. I don't know how that impacts when a lot of our roads are UDOT roads coming in around our commercial areas, so. But I would like to have the discussion.
I think I would agree with that, because when we look at the 250 West, I mean, why are we having to do that project right now? Why is the WFRC giving grant money for it? Well, it's because of all the development that's gone along that road right there.
Right, it's the development, and there are certain roads, residential roads you can't get WFRC money for. So basically 1250 West, parts of 4th North, maybe the frontage road we can get, south frontage road we can get some, 4th West we can get some. And that's kind of the area that we're gonna be going after next, is 4th West. 4th East we can get some.
So I'd
So
like
there's
to
only
see developers chipping in a little bit more on those.
Well, and for us, I feel like if we didn't get going on 1250 West from Parish Lane to Child's Lane or to West Bountiful, our problem is gonna be all the truck traffic that the flex is bring in. It's just gonna tear up the roads, and we're gonna be down there. So we've got to build that road right.
And I think to your point about the developers, I mean, they are installing the roads when it is new development. This is not a problem for Centerville alone. This is a problem across the country, that we have relied on the developers to install the roads, and we're not keeping up with keeping them replaced and maintained. Generally speaking, this is no diss on anyone here, because I think that our public works have done a lot with very slim funds, and then go out and find grants on top of it, but if we don't give them the funding they need, they just don't have the funding they need. I think they're stretching it really well.
But they knew that traffic would increase significantly on 1250 West, and it is something that we should have.
Which is probably in part why there is the grant money, but.
So.
Yeah.
Well,
I just think we need to have the discussion.
And if that road goes all the way through Farmington, what's it gonna be like?
Well, it'll be a lot busier.
Yeah. Well, they want to name it Phoenix Way, but I said no.
No.
Anyway.
It could be Phoenix Way in Farmington and then change to.
Public Works Drive.
Yeah. I was thinking it was gonna be Carlson something, right?
No, it should not be that at all.
Carlson Quarter.
No. So anyway, moving forward, going into the transportation budget, I'm kind of going off. I would normally have Mark here to take care of this, because it's kind of his realm of things. So don't beat up on the guy that doesn't know anything. Anyway, so transportation, like we've talked, 4th West, he's guessing, $3.36 million to do that. If you look at the fee, that's this year's 4th West Jennings. This says actually 1.55 million on that. So I'm not sure what all he's got figured into that. He does have a breakout that you can read on that as well. The second project is, various sidewalk and hazard trees that are, raise the sidewalks and things like that. So in October, Mark's going to go back out after the CDBG funds again to see if we can lasso some of them down. We didn't have any this year. I don't know whether they didn't have any or did we just didn't get in there in time. I'm not sure which.
It was like that. It would be.
We didn't attend the mandatory meeting, but they've already told us they're not prioritizing our ADA ramps because we have received so much money so far with those. So
that's a true statement.
But if they have money available, then we're going to apply just in case.
So Mark's going to
I'm
be
sorry,
there.
this was CDBG? Okay.
So I think that goes a lot to be said for the WFRC as well. I think they realize that Centerville scored a lot of money. I mean, I think we've done better than any other community that I know of anyway for those funds. So
Mike, I'm sorry, I know you went over this, but it was, I didn't quite catch. On crack ceiling, the 75,000, is that including city staff time? Are you kind of
that doesn't really
measuring
take
that?
care of staff time. So,
The staff time's included their salary.
Right, I know, yeah, you're right, but I guess what I'm trying to understand is, hey, how much do we think we're saving? Are we saving?
well, I think you are. I mean, it's like how I look at our staff time.
As
I mean,
opposed
it's
to
not.
going a third-party contract.
Yeah, that's all yeah.
Yeah, and so if you compare it to that, I mean, yeah, we do have our time in there, but you gotta remember, when is the time that they're crack sealing? It's
I swear
usually
they
in
were
the
just
fall
doing
when we're not as busy, or it's in the spring when we're not as busy.
Okay.
Mark's very good about strategizing what he does, and, it's going back to what we said, we're trying to do as much as we can with the least amount that we can. And, Mark has done a very good job in prioritizing how to get things done, and, I can't think of anything that he's slipping and missing, so I think it's a plus that he's out there doing that. And the nice thing about it is we get more bang for the buck, so we get more roads done. There will come a point where, okay, well, we're caught up, we're okay for now. So
I think it's great. I just thought, I bet there's a bigger benefit than we're even realizing, because even though you have to put the time, you might have to put the time in, you're right, you're utilizing that during slower times, and
Right.
keeping your crews
The
busy.
thing that I don't like when we contracted out, and you gotta realize my first assignment here was in the street department. So crack sealing is usually done when the cracks are the widest, which is in the winter, right? So you put the crack seal in it, then during the summer when it, expands back out, it pushes it up, and there's no moisture gets in it. If you do it the opposite way, when it goes back out, it cracks. The purpose is really nothing. So a lot of contractors don't want to do it during the winter. They want to come in and do it during the summer. So if you go back probably 4 or 5 years and you start thinking about all the complaints we used to get about people driving through and it's getting on their tires. See, I don't know that we've had that happen in the last 4 years. To my knowledge, I can't say of any. Do you remember any, Dave?
No, we've had success with that. And also, just running a quick average of their wages compared to the 2 months that they do it, we're still coming out a net profit of 40,000 or so, just doing it ourselves. Accounting for 4 guys' average wage.
So.
Well, then we put that into doing more, so then we're saving that much more on that, so it's really multiplying it.
I think so.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's see, we're talking about crack sealing. We got the slurry sealing that we'll have bid out, and then the sidewalk repair of 125,000. So, capital equipment projects. I don't know how well you can see that, but that's, I copied and pasted that in. Mark decided he wanted to go to Disneyland in Paris. I don't give it that, but whatever. So.
It's also on your CIP sheet that you have on your binder.
Yeah, so you can take a look at that, we can answer those questions. I don't know if it's pertinent that we have to ask tonight. I think the main thing that you guys need to understand, and that I would want you to understand, is we have the master plans, right? So we have a drainage, we have the water, we have the street master plans, we have the storm drain master plans. So we have plans, And it was really interesting today. I'll take a step off the side, even though I'm in a hurry. We were meeting with I-15 today, and it's, you know, it's funny how if we didn't have the knowledge that we have, we may get shortchanged. I'm just gonna leave it at that kind of, because they ran up north on one of the drainage going underneath I-15, they ran a steel line until we got to the railroad tracks. And then it's corrugated steel going the rest of the way. And so they're going, oh, well, we think it's okay. And Kevin, you know, goes, no, it's not okay. You know, Dave sat into the meeting with us and it was great. He gave a lot of good input, but having staff that's knowledgeable, having these master plans helps us to say, no, we need to replace that. So in the process right now, we're trying to say, you know, we may help you. We may say that's in our name because the railroad doesn't like dealing with the state of Utah for some reason. At least that's what I'm told. And so if the city goes in, we're more apt to be able to get a permit, but then we let UDOT pay for it. That makes sense? So we're continually trying to find the angles that we can get to make, you know, another one was the guardrail going over the I-15 that we have on the walkway. You know, Kevin pointed out, yeah, you guys need to replace what was there. What's there and what needs to go back in. And so it's, these meetings are pretty important in making sure what we get back in return is what we want. What's
Right.
good for the city.
Because it's an upgraded material, right?
Yeah, and the city
was
made for the
nicer
upgrade,
than-
so we're saying it needs to be the same again.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to go pay for it again, right?
No.
At least that's how I view it. So any questions on this part? I'm going to hand it over to Dave if you don't have any. You feel free to reach out to me anytime. It doesn't have to be right now.
This is probably for another day, but by any chance, our discussion on the telecom situation and potentially doing a study to maybe rework some of our ordinances, is any of that in any of the?
It's not in there. Now, we were already headed down the road when we did the budget. I would look for that next year. What I have got approved from Brant is that we will take and start doing the design, so we have a city standard that we're gonna hold these guys to. And from that, I think we do need to look at it, but I think we can come up with a city standard that we require these people to do, kind of like what you and I looked at it, you know, what size box will we allow them to put in, and what's the smallest we will, you know,
And no fiber in any of those boxes.
yeah,
There's no fiber.
it'll be coming.
Some of it's been sitting there for a year.
Okay, hopefully it's
So
coming.
they're just taking up space right now. And
Well-
I'm not kidding. I continue to get phone calls. I am getting probably 2 calls a week
I am too.
complaining about this.
It's really up to
They
what.
still never came and fixed my parts.
Weird. Yeah, because Matt explained to me how it works and what they're doing, and I'm not surprised they didn't come fix your
I was
part.
accidentally included on an email in South Jordan with the same subcontractor that did stuff in our city. And I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to be on this email thread, but my personal experience wasn't that great.
So, I'm gonna be honest, I went in.
Did you really just say it that simple?
I'm sure he did. He's very good.
I was gonna say,
Do you think he said it any different?
I really do think we need to come up with some type of standard, because up by Kevin's house, I was going up by there checking out some stuff, and I drove by. I'm kidding you not, I seen 5 boxes, and they were all this big, and they were all placed around each other. I don't even know how they shoot them in there.
I don't
really
know how they do either, but I guess my concern is there a chance we could have this discussion before this budget's approved and see if I can convince my colleagues in this room to consider getting that going a little
Oh, I'm
sooner?
all for it. I mean,
Just
if you wanna
because-
find the money, I'm more than happy to.
Just because I don't think this is
Don't
gonna
move
let
forward.
up, and the problem is they're doing it, but they're just gonna keep moving all over the city. Like, we're dealing with the neighborhoods as they move
It's a
around.
great intern project to help Lisa out, you know?
I think it'd be a great idea. I can't tell you how bad I feel because I use her all the time. Poor Lisa.
What's that? Oh, okay. Sorry.
See what I'm saying about this
There it
problem?
is.
She just confirmed.
Yeah. I mean, it's, for me, it's hard. I mean, it's like, okay, Utopia came in. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm gonna leave it at that. But then all of a sudden, these other companies decide they want to upgrade, they want to, so now you have every person coming in, so, do you say, well, we only allow this and then we're done? I don't know if we can legally do that.
I don't know what our options are that way, but I actually have reached out to our representatives to look at, I'm calling it telecom littering, because it's gonna be a
Well,
mess in our yards.
That's a great way to, I mean, it's a PUE, I understand that.
I get it's a PUE,
But
but
it
there's
is
got
littering,
to be,
it feels like.
and the boxes are huge and they're way oversized.
Let me throw one other thing in from a public works side. So how would you realize what's in the park strip? How would you like to try to dig in that park strip?
I wouldn't.
We get to all the time.
Yeah, and I think it's a
I mean,
more
it's-
protection, it's a public utility easement, but it's also,
But
we
But the
want to
problem is
protect
they're putting
our
stuff
city's
in.
public utilities
Yeah, they're
as a
putting
primary
stuff in though,
utility,
Mike,
not
and then you're
a
gonna have an,
third-party
you're not even gonna be able to get
private
in there.
enterprise.
The thing about Utopia, when it went in that I did like, is they had to go underneath the sidewalk. I like that. Because they could come out, bore out, but they had to get underneath the sidewalk as soon as possible.
They're moving underneath the sidewalk. I just literally am not gonna be able to plant another plant
I'm with
for
you.
like 10 feet of my front yard if they keep going. I think that, I think that I know we maybe can't change what they're doing, but we can hold their feet to the fire on some things with our code. And that's what I want us to look at.
I'm all for it. I mean.
I totally am not,
I'm in
I
opposition.
get, I mean, yeah, and we just need to talk
But
about this
for
another
me,
night.
it's
but
like,
just-
I can't, my hands are tied. I mean.
I know yours
They
are.
have an agreement. And
I
as
know.
long as they do clean up, whatever, that's as far as I can go.
But I did like your suggestion of potentially getting somebody who knows all about this kind of stuff to perhaps help us navigate what options we have that keep us legal, but also, like, I'm not kidding, I just had a call, I had a text on Sunday that was a mile long about why aren't they, like, there's all these boxes, they just this is a brand new neighborhood, and they're just filling the PUE with.
They don't square it up.
Oh, it's ridiculous. The one box we've got in my yard is sitting like this. It's ridiculous. It's sloppy and it's not good. It's not fair to our residents. We gotta fix it.
It's, no,
Well, I think you have the right way to go about it. We've got to first come up with a study, and then we've got to be able
Yeah.
to find
what
ways
are,
we can.
what are other
enforce them.
cities doing? Are other cities taking this on? Are they just looking?
I don't think nobody is.
It's it kind of feels like a race. So it's interesting, but I think they're grabbing low hanging fruit. And for some reason, Centerville seems to be a place I mean, you've got places in Bountiful that Kate Bradshaw told me they can't even, some of the people on the hill are complaining that they can't get internet, and then we've got so much, we don't know what to do with it. I don't know why they're picking certain areas over others, but my understanding is they are hiring subcontractors to go out and put it in, and they get paid by the job, and so.
But they're actually hiring because I called, they're hiring subcontractors to hire subcontractors. to
Oh,
do the
sure,
work.
sure, exactly.
And
But
so it's so far down the line, you can't even figure out.
But they'll go, you can go out, and if it's hard, they won't go one way, but then they've got all these boxes that are just empty. There's not even fiber in them.
Lisa, you got that one on the list? Okay.
Just in case you were wondering,
Let's
I'm
move on.
passionate about
Let's move
this.
on.
So, any questions so far to what I've talked about? Dave's gonna come and talk
Sorry.
about your point. The GIS
Nate, it's a
department.
broad question because I'm tallying this up using last year's stuff and kind of looking at how I don't want to say kick down a can down the road, but we're pushing some expenditures off for future years. For example, the bobtail, it's a massive expense, but is there a summary page for totaling up all of the departments across this over the future years? Because I know there's one for each individual one, but is there a tabulated one for each of these?
No, but I could probably create one.
Okay, I'm gonna turn the time over to Dave, and then I'm gonna disappear, sorry. But thank you for taking me, really, thanks, Alan, for letting me, and hey, you never know that budget in front of me. I apologize.
Welcome. Hello, everybody. So
So I was going to take a minute. We talked about the GIS highlights, and really I just wanted to highlight some of the things he's accomplished this year. He being Mike Smith, he doesn't have a lot that's top budget-wise, so I figured I'd take that moment to discuss some of those. So some of his primary things we did, he developed a new model that will allow the outside information, which is like the Davis County parcel data, to be integrated into our system on a daily basis, as opposed to previously he would have to take it on a monthly basis when it was convenient for him to work into his schedule. We'd update it. This gives everybody access to real-time data with all of our different interactive maps that he's working on.
That's fantastic, because if you need to contact a property owner, you know that it's actually the property owner.
Yep. Which also speaks to, if you go down a couple formatting upgrades, he is making a lot of the improvements specifically for the mobile devices, which are like the different interactive maps that you see on our website. The emergency management one is done. I think he's done a lot of the work on the zoning one, but all of them are going to be up to this new format, new branding, new look, but they're going to be a lot more mobile phone friendly, since that's where everybody's looking at everything now. A couple of other things I wanted to emphasize: his work with the Whitaker Museum. He did recordings and the production for a bunch of tour information for there, which is clearly outside of what a normal GIS guy does, but this is a multi-talented guy, and we're super grateful to have him doing that. And then lastly, the enhancement of some of the applications that are specific to our public works. We have an equipment, a reporting program for deficiencies in the vehicles, problems, anything like that. We have accident reporting that he's incorporating with Bryce. Snowplow reportings, we're able to get accurate real-time data on miles plowed, quantities of salt, things of that nature. And then street sign inspections. And one of the biggest this past year was the lead and copper rule, which is a water department thing. We've kind of talked about it briefly, but it's an inventory of all service laterals for every single home and business in the entire community. And he was able to set up a database that would coordinate with the state's required database, so that transition, once we had all of our information in, he just plopped it straight in and we were done. It was fantastic. So he's really great. We really appreciate having him. Moving forward to budget highlights. I did have one that was going to go up, line 320. It's going to go up $2,100. That's for what's called creator licenses. It just allows a couple more people more editing opportunities in our current ArcGIS system. And then we move on to capital equipment, and really it's the plotter scanner for $13,000. One we have right now is 13 years old. The scanner function doesn't work on it, so he can plot. He does make a lot of different maps. He's able to continue doing some of that, but some of the other things like the scanning and just up to date and more high definition mapping and that he'd be able to print with this new item.
And that'll be shared with community development, so they'll share it together.
How many maps do you make a year?
Depends. I was talking with him today. He does a lot of our big maps. He tries to keep, the police department has one that they try to keep up to date. They'll do that every couple months. We do the one up here at least annually, but he does produce a lot of other maps for, I believe, like the trail group. Some of them will come. We give a lot to just residents coming in and requesting vicinity, and then a bit with the emergency management.
Do we charge that to residents that ask for a map?
I believe I can't confirm that 100%. We should, and I don't know for sure.
Those plot plans, are not inexpensive.
We do check.
How much can you get that when you outsource something like that, like a map? How much does it cost?
I don't know, because we need to.
I will say this, I think from a time perspective, because of the complexity of printing to a plotter, I can't imagine it would be worth it. Even if you're not, I know we're all printing a little less now than we used to, but they last quite a while. When was the last time we purchased one?
13 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen people that really know those plotters really well, and they're taking them out is hard. It's hard to get it exactly.
And a lot of his printing is just larger scale printing, like signs, things for like the Whitaker Museum, police, different activities. 4th of July, he says he does a lot of larger printing for different kind of things. So it's not just plotting for maps, but it is a significant printer for all the departments. Thoughts, feelings? Future outlook, Trimble survey equipment. The first one's $20,000 estimate. That's a full setup for data collection, and that a couple of years out, we would hope for a second device, which is more for the blue staking. So we don't know if they'll fall into like the water department or here, but that would be a device to help us pinpoint our blue stakes as we do them. So we hopefully avoid any contact on the data we collected. And then lastly, the drone and software licensing. And that's
Do we do our own blue staking?
Yes, for the water system and drainage and so.
Are you doing engineering?
Good report. No. You done, Dave, or you got more?
Good.
He's not doing engineering?
Yeah, we'll hit engineering real quick.
Not much change, actually no change. We did implement this year that we are charging the actual cost for the community development. So we send out invoices monthly to those developers. So it's offset by revenue is what I'm saying for the community development part. And that's it.
Good job.
Yep.
All righty, where are we going back to?
Let's go back to youth council. Mayor,
Haley?
okay?
Haley? Back to you.
Okay, youth council.
You've taken an hour already, Haley. You're supposed to spend 7:50.
Really going over my allotment. So youth council, the biggest change you'll see on this budget is.
It's back to 19 people, sorry, Haley.
Yeah, sorry, page 19. We were coding Fall Festival to our miscellaneous budget in youth council. So we just itemized that out, put it in community services along with our other events. So that's kind of why you see a difference in numbers there from 25 to 26. And we have 28 current youth council members right now. And kind of our biggest thing we like to do with our youth council is take them to the annual conference. So that is at Utah State University. We have, even though we kind of are expecting to grow in members, we are going to be keeping that right around 20 that we take to that conference every year. Not everyone is able to go. And that's really kind of like our accommodations for rooms in the conference. And it is costly, but it's extremely beneficial for these youth to get with other councils, receive high quality leadership training. So yeah, we do have all of our youth council is involved in our city events, as you know. So they are there working those Fall Festival, July 4th, Easter egg. Those are their events that they kind of hold near and dear to their hearts. So they are volunteering their time. So we appreciate the council's support for these youth and having them you guys are funding their council. So we're extremely grateful, but they do give back with all the service to staff. Events like this would be a much higher cost than what we spend on our youth council.
Our servers at our volunteer appreciation dinner?
Yes, they came to volunteer appreciation. They do the Whitaker Tea Party. Any event they get their hands on, they really try to.
4th of July.
Yep. So yeah, they're super involved. We do a lot of fun things with our council, like Day on the Hill. It's a vital experience for them. I reported in that about a month ago, where they kind of go up to the Capitol. Our youth council is very youth-led, so they are planning these activities. They're taking on those experiences and the planning themselves. So Bryce and I just get to kind of advise and guide here and there. We're also going to be involved in the National Global Youth Day of Service, along with a lot of other kids from Viewmont. So they really give back to our community. One of the things they kind of joke about is their tagline is they put the unity in community. So they really bring our youth and our adults and people together through their events. And you'll see them, they're chit-chatting people up at all the events, so it's really cool to see them interact with our community. One thing we will try to implement is our leadership conference. Like I said, we try to keep that to a really tight 20 that we take to the conference, and we have had some kids that kind of backed out last minute. And where we're kind of sponsoring that, it's a really good opportunity, but if they're not going to commit and back out last minute, we'd like to implement a cancellation fee. So that would be their only fee that we would get from the youth would be that, is if at a certain point, you've got to kind of make up for the cost where the city spent the money on that experience for you. Next slide. Yeah, so we are expecting growth. We hope. We have been growing year by year, and we love that the council has kept that open for the youth to be involved, that we aren't turning people away. Anybody who wants this experience can have it. So we're extremely grateful for that opportunity.
And that's all Centerville residents?
Yeah, Centerville residents, yep. And we start 9th, we do high school, so 9th through 12th.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, do you guys have any questions? This is from the conference that we go to annually. Really cool, we bring in big keynote speakers and stuff, so it's a really good experience for them.
Is the increase in that based off of an increase in fees? I guess over time, it wasn't an increase from last year, but in previous years, like 5,700.
Yes, so and we were, like I said, we're keeping that really at 20. That
Oh, it's based on attendees.
Yes, yep, so we pay per
Yeah, this is the first year where we actually have to double up rooms.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they love that, but that's what we have to do. Maybe that put forward a room to make it work. Cost.
So thank you for supporting our youth. Whitaker should be next if we want to move on. If you guys have any other questions for youth council.
Yep, let's go.
Okay, Whitaker, cool. So me and Lisa oversee the Whitaker. Lisa is the museum director, so she's involved in the day-to-day operations and events and activities for the museum. Yeah, we do programs, exhibits, events, as well as running the museum itself. We can do the next. Perfect. So budget highlights. You'll kind of see the biggest changes in here are event supplies that we increased, and that's because we added summer camp as well as our WIT After Dark, which is our escape room. And we do charge for those events, so that revenue should be offsetting the cost of those extra supplies for that. We do have IT services and licenses. We just have like $100 annual fee to keep our VR wizard up and operable. So that's kind of that increase that you see there. And it's kind of the biggest highlights. Victorian Tea Party, we think we found the perfect kind of price point for that, where we're able to sell it out at $20. And we were able to keep it covering its cost by lowering our menu options. And so we're going to continue doing that this year so we can break even on that event. So next slide. So this is the capital equipment and projects that we projected this year. So as you know, they get the percentage from RAP tax. And this is kind of their plan for their improvements over the years. So this is stuff that they are all planning for this 2026 budget year. Do you guys have questions on Whitaker?
Brad, I don't have a question on Whitaker, but it relates to RAP tax. So we had RAP tax revenue of 944,000 last year and 570 this year, as well as expenditure. What am I missing there?
We didn't have 940 last year.
But did I misread a number based off of our last year's adopted budget?
You're saying last year's actuals?
Last year's adopted budget.
I'm not sure, where are you looking?
I'm looking at 2024's adopted budget.
On page 54?
Page 5. We can just put that as a note, Nate. We don't have to address it right now.
570?
570 this year, but it was 944 last year.
Oh, we used significant fund balance to transfer to the Parks Fund, to be able to fund the pickleball and the playground.
So yeah, fund balance use, so not what we collected, so that's, I guess, where I was confused, is what we were collected. So we use fund balance.
Yeah, we need.
Answers that question.
Are you gonna do all?
I can give you the exact number, but I feel like it's around 400,000 that we transferred.
That would equate to
Don't
close to
know.
what I was.
So we have 2 council members that'll be out here after this, so a couple ways we can approach this, sorry, Mayor. I hate to say it, we can delay police, make sure all council members are here Thursday, and we can do the public or the buildings with Bruce for the rest of the night. Mayor, it's up to you how you want to handle it, but I'm okay delaying police until Thursday.
We got police, we got Bruce with parks, right?
Parks and the facilities. So the buildings.
So the question is do we want all 5 council members for parks as well as the police, or?
Possibly. Tonight, what we tend to do, I've thought about this, right? If we go till late tonight, like 10:30, sometimes on Thursday, we end up getting out by 7:30. So if we want to cut it short today at 9, just go till 9 until Thursday, then I think we can balance it that way out pretty good. So we can delay parks and police until Thursday. I think we're okay.
I hate having 2 down.
Yeah, for those 2 big budgets. Facilities, I'm just kidding. I mean, there is one big item in facilities.
Yeah.
But Chief, are you okay with that? Sorry, you had to miss all your fun tonight for not presenting. They had their PT tests and shoots today.
Yeah, we already had enough fun for one day. Let's spread it out on Thursday.
Okay. So yeah, if we want to just finish up facilities tonight and fire.
Yep. Let's do it.
We okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I know Councilmember Heyman wants to stay until 11 o'clock.
She's ramped up on caffeine.
Everybody gave me so much crap last year that I was coming in like, ready to do this long haul.
We don't get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to work out, so we don't know. We don't know the struggle. So, I think you're good unless you want to talk about fire.
Good.
Thank you.
We want to talk about the future.
Oh, futures. Haley's not done yet. Sorry.
Oh, we have one more?
One more slide, future
Yes,
outlook.
sorry. Thank you.
But we're all about the past, so that's not important.
Wait, which one is this?
There is no future. But
Oh, the future outlook.
Future outlook.
sorry, Haley. I didn't know you were done yet.
So that's basically a project list of things. Whitaker is very good at kind of planning out their projects. So this is kind of their 5-10 year things that they'd like to accomplish.
I still want to put on a work session this barn-style all-purpose event space. I still think that that would be really helpful for us to talk to Whitaker about what is it that we as a city are looking for and how can they help.
For sure.
Which page is the Whitaker Capital stuff?
It's on the building, which is after park.
No, that's not.
Page 44.
I will say they have one of the best boards that we have of all of our cities and commissions. They are very active. And they do a very good job of helping Lisa promote. Trails.
Trails is great too.
All right, fire it is.
Thanks. As of right now, our current conversations with South Davis Fire is a 3% increase. Mayor, I don't know if you've heard anything different on your board so far.
Well, I've not, you probably, or discussing what we have.
The property tax increase that was adopted, I guess, at least one budget ago now, was intended to hold steady for 3 to 5 years. And so there's no intent or plan to have a property tax increase this year as of right now. So that's our impact, 3%. Any questions on South Davis Fire? Great.
Is that what you want to do that one?
I was gonna say that, but the 3% is a large, like nominal number as it relates to our property tax.
Yeah, so we're
That's
talking
34,000.
That's 40 plus grand.
Yeah,
Which is what the number we were talking about earlier. So, I mean, you could justify a truth in taxation hearing for that solely.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. And to belabor this one for sure, this is an every year conversation.
Yeah, where you
again, have
can
it with
say,
you is that
be your own special improvement district.
so they already collect property tax, and several years ago they proposed a 30 or 40% property tax or assessment increase to us, which is $300,000, which is crazy. And that was one of I think my first year here. I said that doesn't make any sense to me. That you're going to ask us to give you $300,000 because I got to go to my residents and defend your property tax increase when you have the ability to raise taxes yourself.
Right.
And what they wanted to shy away from is that when the property tax was created originally, it was to fund 24 firefighters, and so they were hoping that the property tax increase has to be tied to those 24 firefighters forever and always. And I'm like, how do you do that? How do you talk about pay increases and promotions and healthcare and this and you can't. And so I said, my argument was you got to abandon that model and talk about a property tax increase that benefits you as a district or, metro area. And our assessment should just be pretty held steady or be considered flat going forward. And there are differing opinions amongst us 5 city managers on how that should be approached. Some cities feel that the assessment's critical to make sure we have a seat at the table, that if we have an assessment, then we have a say in how their operations go, which is true. I mean, there's an argument to that, but to what level? I can have a say at $200,000 as I can at $1 million and still have some impact. So to your point, that has been the argument. If I have to go out and raise property taxes to pay your fee, but I'm making the argument that I'm just transferring it to you. Just go argue it yourself, because you'll have better success as a public safety arguing for an increase than me as a city to give it to you. And so anyway.
So this is one reason of many why I still think that incremental adjustments to account for realistic, responsible costs to do a truth in tax.
And our last 3 property tax increases
appropriate.
Have been tied essentially to public safety, right? Yeah. And that's why we've had the increases. There have been some other benefits, of course, across the board, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's easy if we have this property tax increase due to the fact that we have this pass-through cost to South Davis Fire to pay for.
So when they give us this assessment, do we have any pushback ability on that? Is that
so?
As a board member, yeah. Well, we got 1 vote.
Yeah. So us as the administrative committee, we're the budget officers for South Davis Fire. So us 5 city managers make a motion. We have to agree, and then we make the recommendation to the trustees, commissioners.
So why don't we hold the flag and force them to do?
Because not all the cities agree on that approach. So it creates the discussion amongst ourselves of how we want to approach it, and we're not all on the same page.
What Brant's saying is with the 5 city managers, they've kind of come to a feel that 3% increase is okay. I don't know who did go for it.
Ultimately, I propose a 3% of CPI. If you're gonna have an increase, hold it to CPI. And that was the general feeling.
But then it does put pressure on us to do something to compensate for that. So why don't we have you push back on them?
So my pushback is, I think it should be held steady a long time ago.
Yeah.
What Brent's saying is.
Brent already does
what
that.
you suggested.
I've
1 million,
fighting since
we
day
have,
one.
did,
we
but
have influence.
can we not just keep on? I mean, this is, I mean.
So this next year, I will share that there are 2 of us city managers that we generally have the same feeling that we will be proposing a re-evaluation of how our assessments are done. And one of the big reasons, I don't know, I'll share it. One of the big reasons why is right now our assessments are based on property values in each individual city, not population, which is fine because that's the structures you're protecting. But there is one city who there's an industry here in our South Davis area that is exempt from property taxes, and that city does not have to pay their share of assessments to, even though it's in their city, since they're exempt from property taxes, they don't collect property taxes, therefore, but we still have to pay for that. We still have to pay for that protection of that facility, tax exempt or not.
Mm-hmm.
We still have to pay for making sure our fire service is adequate enough to protect that infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
So I've chatted with the mayor about this, and I think there's an opportunity for us to reevaluate how assessments are done, and the 2 of us will be pushing after this budget year to have that conversation.
Okay.
So if we're gonna have to have an increase, I was trying to control the narrative so it wasn't 5, 10, 15%. I said, look, if
I
you need one,
appreciate that. That's,
we're going
but
CPI.
3% is nickel and a diming us every year.
So our assessments, just a number of years ago, I believe were 894,000. So we're already at 1.2 million. So we've gone up 300,000 or 200,000 or so in 6 years, 5 years. It's a lot.
But they were trying to hit us a few years back, like I said, with that 300,000 1 year.
Yeah, 30% increase.
That's when you and I were pushing back hard.
What's that?
That one was
Because we were saying, what, you don't want to do a truth in taxation and pass it on to us to do it?
I don't either.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, so.
And my proposal is even I wouldn't even mind just getting out completely from assessment and saying, you deal with your own property taxes.
It's true, and it's harder for us to link it to the fire department or the South Davis Fire District when they have the ability to do it themselves.
Now that they've abandoned the need to attach to those 24 firefighters, the mentality has shifted a little bit that if they need more, then they've got to convince.
And they have a new chief.
The trustees that honestly, them amongst themselves, the 5 of them, 6 of them, yeah, 6 of us, sorry, county as well. The 6 of them actually don't agree either. So they have their own little dynamic of how to approach this. So it's really kind of fascinating. So 6 of us feel one way, 6 of them feel one way, and we.
Within those 6.
So again, South Davis, I love that we were part of South Davis Fire, great organization. I think they're amazing. And honestly, handling one public safety department is all I can handle. So give me 2, and that's a different story. I've managed both, and it's kind of fascinating dynamic. But they do a great job, and I'd rather them, because ultimately, I'll share this. My conversation even 3 or 4 years ago was, if I'm giving you 1.5 million, 1.6 million, why don't I just figure out how to stand up my own fire department and have that control and ownership and responsibility to my residents because if I'm giving you that much, then I'm happy to look into what it would cost to stand up my own, right? If I'm giving you that much money. Not saying that's the best argument,
But it's one of those that you have to throw out there so that they can start thinking.
Correct. Because the whole point of being part of this is to save and be Economies of scale. I'm not a big fan of that term, but it is that. Anyway, sorry. Hopefully that was helpful, but
Thank
that's fire. Okay, you want to do facilities, Bruce? Yeah, building. You okay with that?
I didn't do a separate presentation for buildings and parks, I kind of lumped it together, but I can separate out.
I think you're okay. I think you're okay.
They're not listening anymore, is that what you're saying?
No, I didn't say that. I said that.
This is page 39.
Yeah, which page are we?
So starting on page 40-ish, yeah,
39,
39, 40. Yeah.
So he's gonna cover tonight, Bruce is gonna cover, page 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, all those?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you do that, Bruce?
So I don't know that my slides, really even pertain, if you just want to go to the first one, just maybe on staffing, so that they're not with the park staff to see that we, in buildings right now, currently we have 3 part-time, year-round janitorial staff. Basically, they're just housekeeping. Lori Carson, DJ Baker, and that's really all that relates to building maintenance. And then starting, on page 40, you can go to, so the big red flag in buildings is that we're requesting that the city create a new position, a full-time building engineer, maintenance supervisor. We feel that, as we've grown and our facilities have gotten more and bigger and better, we could really benefit from having someone who has some knowledge and skills in HVAC, in building maintenance and building engineering. I know, like, for example, the Bountiful Temple, they have a building engineering department that they manage and take care of all of the HVAC systems, the carpet replacement, the roofing, the painting, all of the building maintenance needs, electrical, plumbing, all fall under that. And I feel that me and my park staff and with a little help from Public Works here and there, we muddle through, but I feel that it could be done so much better. Our buildings could be better maintained and safer. And I put together I just started jotting down all the responsibilities that would be a building maintenance supervisor's responsibilities. I'm up to 33, and I'll just read through a few of these. The elevator maintenance contract, a housekeeping contract, which would only actually be those 3 part-time employees that we have doing that would only actually be, I would say, about 20% of this person's job would be managing and overseeing the housekeeping of the trash and restroom maintenance and that sort of thing. And also purchasing and ordering of janitorial supplies, lights, fixtures, HVAC maintenance contract, managing that, working with, if not having their own handyman skills that could be done by this person. Anything that supersedes that would be dealing with electricians and plumbers when we have to have new things wired in, new plumbing fixtures, taking care of maintenance of urinals and toilets and flushing systems and valves and leaks and all those things. Roof maintenance, window cleaning, the blind cleaning contract, the ceiling tiles that you see throughout the building, maintenance and carpet maintenance, of replacement of carpets as they wear out, but also of regular carpet cleaning. That we have carpet cleaners that come in every so often and clean the lobby carpet, or clean the stairways, or clean the carpeting. Paint maintenance, and then also new paint when it's time to get a new paint job. There's a contract for maintenance of our fire extinguishers and of our fire system, suppression system. All of these, sprinklers that all have to be checked because it's a commercial building. They have to be checked and signed off every year, and you've got to coordinate that contract and that guy coming in and checking those and fixing and repairing anything that's gone wrong with your fire suppression system. Along with that is also an alarm system. We have both the Public Works and City Hall. You've got your AED machines have to be checked and maintained each year. All of your some of these are minor, drinking fountain maintenance and filters and cleaning, door locks, keys, building security, which could also include cameras and auto openers and things on the doors and things that all require coordinating that, maintaining that, keeping them up in good repair. The city flags, maintenance of them and replacing them, protocol every time they need to be lowered to half staff and put back up again. Managing the dumpsters and trash services, managing the oil water separators and the hazmat service of cleanup that's required down in our public works services, managing the sewer maintenance and sewer bills, paying the bills. There are 10 monthly gas and power bills that have to be paid for our buildings. We've got the Whitaker Museum, the City Hall, the Public Works Parks Building, and the decant and storage rooms. There's also bills a couple times a year for sewer and for the garbage and for the secondary water. That there's quite a bit of just paying the bills and budgeting for that for the next year. Driveways, maintenance, parking lots maintenance, painting of the parking lots, signage in the parking lots, the handicap stalls. You've got sometimes Bethany's office. It'd be nice to have a full-time person that had a little experience with drywall and basic electrical, basic plumbing. Keep maintaining and doing regular training with emergency evacuation, shelter in place, and training for employees in the offices each year that go along with that. We have now more than a dozen monitors that all need to be maintained. If something goes wrong with them, they need to be fixed or they need to be repaired. There's furniture, office furniture, lobby furniture that also needs to be maintained, repaired. When it's time to replace it, we need to have it surplus and hauled away and take care of. Those are all things that a full-time building maintenance person could take care of. That it doesn't happen, or they call Parks Department, hey, will you guys come and haul away all the old conference room chairs that we just got rid of all of them, got new ones in the police department. Can you get a couple trucks and get people over here and get rid of that? Work that into what you're doing. And so we've been taking care of these things, but I think it could be done much better with this position. So also just another thing could be building scheduling. A lot of times tonight, there's another organization that's using our EOC room that's the Davis Behavioral Health. Also the Rotary Club uses our building scheduling and finding out what their needs are and setting up and taking down. It could all be done by a full-time building supervisor, building engineer. So there's my pitch for that. And what we'd probably do is do away with those 3 part-time positions, do a maintenance housekeeping contract with maybe an outside housekeeping company that would take care of our regular building cleaning, but then everything else would be managed and overseen and either done by this full-time person or contracted and managed and supervised by this person.
So no longer having custodial staff.
So that would be, we talked about.
We're exploring that option and see what it looks like.
We talked about doing a hybrid. Maybe we just do the housekeeping contract out, but we still keep our carpet cleaner. We have carpet cleaning equipment. We've got a guy who's done it for a long time and does a great job and just kind of rotates through the city buildings cleaning carpets. Maybe we keep that one, and it's like 10 hours a week that he spends. Dale.
So back in 2020, end of 2020, early 2021, I asked Bruce to give me some numbers to see if there's any cost savings of doing this differently. Because ultimately, the challenge has been for this year is that our buildings are getting older, and maintenance, our boiler was a big issue this year and took a lot of staff time. Parks is the one department that hasn't grown. It's had the same personnel all these years. And to give you some backstory, the facilities used to be maintained by our former finance director prior to my arrival. So we're talking 2017,
for this building.
2016.
Public Works director kind of took care of the public works.
So
I took care of our building. He took care of this building.
So with the departure of him, it kind of said, well, hey, Bruce, it's now your job. And you gave it to a parks guy who's really not a building guy. And I commend Bruce. I think he's done a phenomenal job of not necessarily having the background. He's done a great job. But at the same time, as our buildings are getting older and require more time and attention, we have a disconnect, we find out that our generator doesn't automatically kick on because we don't have the right disconnect. So all these little building things are now creeping up as our building's getting older. And if we want to stay in this building and last longer, we've got to invest in somebody that's going to help us, just give us some better TLC and more time and attention. So I thought about this 4 or 5 years ago that this might be a need, just delaying it because of the costs associated with it. I think we're at that point where we need someone with the skill and mindset to challenge even a contractor, right? Bruce has developed some skills and knowledge in the area, but if an HVAC guy comes in and says, you need X,
Sometimes
Bruce is like, okay, you need X.
Sometimes we're just at their mercy, yeah.
But maybe it's not, maybe it's Y. Maybe we actually need Y, and are we getting taken by Carrier who's charging us all these fees to come in? We don't know.
Nate checked with other cities that have full-time building supervisors and maintenance people, and kind of got an idea of what they're being paid, what would the cost, and he worked that into the city hall building maintenance budget of what it would look like. So that's, I think, at the top of city hall. Maybe we
Can you go back to your personnel slide real quick?
Yeah.
So while you're on that slide, you thought about doing similar to what we do with engineering and having somebody that you contract with on the HVAC issues and electrical issues.
I mean,
I'm not saying.
Yeah.
So we
Contract
so we
against
have
the
an
full-time
HVAC
person necessarily, but.
Yes, we have an HVAC company that we contract with to take care of our HVAC maintenance, but like, it'd be nice to have a person that helps manage that contract and knows what they're talking about when they come in and say, this is what we found, this is what we recommend, this is what we think you need. They speak that language and say, okay, and we can come back to the city council and say, hey, our HVAC contractor is saying our boilers or the igniters are having problems and this and this and this are going wrong with it, and recommend this. And I having some experience and knowledge in HVAC, recommend this also. So we have contracts with all of these different, we have an elevator maintenance contract of A+ elevators. They're experts on elevators. This person would just manage that contract and make sure we're keeping up with it, budgeting properly, paying for and doing the things.
Potentially doing the repairs themselves if they have the skills and ability to do so. It could save us $500 from carriers coming out and saying, hey, you just had to do this.
Ideally,
And
we
we
get
pay
somebody who
$500.
has great skills in a lot of those areas.
Maybe I shouldn't be using their name. There's a company.
That's the slide you're looking for.
So what happens to Lori and BJ? You already talked about that a little bit.
Those positions would go away. Lori actually has her own business that does housekeeping, and she said that if this goes that direction, she would like to bid for the housekeeping contract and do it as a private contractor rather than a city employee.
We need to do some more exploring. So Bruce has got us some numbers of what one contract.
I know I'm
would
asking
be.
direct questions, and they're sensitive questions. I'm just trying to make sure I understand it completely.
We just need to explore it. There is some cost savings, but we haven't captured all of the potential cost
I mean,
savings.
from my personal professional background, this is how we manage our buildings. We have a property manager that oversees, maybe 6, 8 buildings. But then we have maintenance techs that service 2 or 3 or 4 buildings, depending on size and location. And those maintenance techs is kind of the description that Bruce talked about, where they're going through and they're going in and fixing toilets or replacing light bulbs or checking VAV boxes and just kind of your everyday on-site
Light
maintenance
fixtures.
engineers.
You can see in this room right now, that's got probably 6 lamps out. You have a 12-foot ladder to get it and replace them.
Don't look too close.
Wait, we still have third-party contracts for elevator service, for HVAC service, anything else like that. You still have those third-party contracts, but we have maintenance engineers
Yeah.
for.
But then
every one of our
they
buildings.
oversee all that, and they pay the bills, and they write the budget for the next one, and all that would be part of this person's responsibilities.
So are you saying that based off of, it's almost a personnel zero-sum game?
I don't know that.
Nate?
I think it would still end up costing us a little more.
No, I think
Because I don't know how we break out our existing custodial service.
Yeah, so we have the custodial service is where it's kind of your zero sum that you're looking at. Or is it more cost effective to have them on staff, or is it better to outsource it? And that's what we need to evaluate. As far as this maintenance position, it will be extra cost. With the hope that it will save us in the long run, because
On the other.
these buildings need
maintenance
taken
items
care
where
of.
You're having to get third party
Right.
contract.
Oh, I think your standard of care of the buildings would go up substantially.
It's actually this year, this building's 30 years old this year.
What's that?
This building is 30 years old this year.
Does this take in the Center Point Theater as well?
That's a consideration. So Center Point Theater, they have their own HVAC contract, their own elevator contract, their own housekeeping contract. It's a city building and we.
But do they have they don't have their own maintenance tech there?
Yes.
They just contract it all out. They have.
Contract.
They have a part-time person who does this job of coordinating with the plumbers, electricians, the HVAC, the elevator.
With some skill.
He
underlying skill.
used to work.
Oh, yeah,
for
you have to have
Marriott
somebody-
Hotels. He did the same thing.
It's more than a handyman.
Yeah. He used to work for Marriott Hotels and he retired and was working for them for cheap as a retiree, just helping coordinate their building maintenance needs. But I understand he's now left and they're kind of reassigning those. So it is a good question because that could be part of this if we wanted to have them be in charge of that building also and help with meeting their needs. But they're very happy with the situation they've got over there.
And they have their own separate budget too.
They have their own separate budget. They're not looking for change, but that is a city building that we could consider.
Or at least coordinating with the part-timer.
We consider
to
our
ensure the
park
part-timers do.
restrooms and our ball field concession stand as our buildings as well.
Right.
This individual would service those buildings as well.
So, yeah, and our parks have park pavilions and restrooms and things that our parks department maintains and things, but a person like this, a resource on staff would be great to have if someone like that was available to us, maybe even assist with some of our other building needs.
So Bruce, am I understanding correctly? We're tentatively leaning this way, but you've got this in the budget.
I've been recommending.
It's possible that we need not go this
The
direction.
janitorial contract is not in the budget, but this position is in this budget.
So the expectation, at least right now, is that we would move forward with that, barring some thing that you guys come back to us and say, this just doesn't work.
Right, unless you all decide that this is just not.
Let me ask
the
a
right time.
broader question, and we can address this tomorrow night, because I think we need our other council members here too, but Thursday, sorry. I'm not in opposition, I'm not necessarily for it, I'm just trying to vet the request. What other departments are asking for positions and how do we prioritize personnel requests? Like what are the opportunity costs across all the departments in the city?
Yeah, so we did have a police officer request this year that it was not included in this budget. Again, due to that there is a high cost for that, and for sure a property tax increase needs to be adopted for that increase. Anytime, and Nate mentioned earlier, anytime we add a position, we should be considering a property tax increase for the ongoing revenue. And the other position is a part-time code enforcement officer, because it's definitely become a little bit more challenging maintaining that. It's just something
because it's a complaint-based enforcement model.
And it still is pretty challenging to follow up, to deal with, and so having a part-timer, Dwayne Huffman and West Bountiful and I have always, for the last few years, have talked about sharing one. Is there a possibility to share one between the two cities? And because they're in need of one as well. But again, we're just so small, it's hard to. But if we can find a good part-time one, and this, I'm taking some thunder away from Mike, but if you have part-time, you're not paying benefits, you're saving some costs, and you could generally find a pretty good retired person to be your code enforcement officer, because you need someone that's a little rough, a little bit firm, and understands.
Some cranky old retiree.
Which is, I hear that. So
Wait,
to
hold
vet
on.
this whole.
We don't discriminate based on hiring on age. I just want to be very clear.
That's very, of course.
It's based on experience.
But what we're
not
saying
age.
is there's opportunities that we should be able to find a part-timer with experience that'd be interested in the role. So.
And would that be something that could be looked at for this position as far as the engineer or facilities engineer? Is that a part-time position potentially?
We've thought about that as well. Could it be a part-time position? But I think.
I've never seen it in my industry.
But I think with how many buildings or facilities we have to maintain.
industry.
Well, no, because of the volume of work that's required.
A part-timer managing Centerpoint Theater, one building is one thing, but managing several.
In fact, if I'm a for-profit, I'm trying to even be, maybe even more conscientious. Some people would argue. I think in my position, whether I'm in the public setting or the private setting, I'm trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, I think the skills and experience you're looking for, they're gonna also want full-time work, and would be enticed by the benefit package the city offers, whereas maybe it wouldn't make as high a wage as it would in the private sector. Benefits hopefully make up for that, and we'd have some skilled, experienced people that would be interested in the job.
But of all the departments that, Parks is the one that has not added a position in many of your streets, was added last year.
And we've added a lot more facilities and amenities that increased labor, but we've been able to keep up with seasonal labor and things like that.
And I'm not arguing we should add one for the sake of adding one. I'm just saying the prioritization. We have prioritized, I feel, other departments.
It's kind of funny because it had never occurred to me until you guys were saying it, that our parks people are running all of our buildings, which is.
It's weird, right?
That is a little weird.
Park people and building engineers are not the same people.
So I started in 2019, right?
And
so that's why in
appreciate
2020 I asked
that.
this because I'm like, this
No.
doesn't feel
that-
right to me. But finding the money to support
Doing
it.
these responsibilities, I feel like.
You feel a little fish out of water?
I feel like an expert when I'm dealing with subcontractors and things, talking about fertilizers and turfs and pesticides and equipment and things like that.
But not VAV boxes and boilers and chillers.
I meet the HVAC guy up here and I'm like, I don't know why this is not working. I don't know why this is, what do we need? And
he doesn't know either. Or she.
But they got a lot better. My first year as mayor, there was turf in here and flowers.
That's the way you call it better.
No, I mean, I'm deeply appreciative too, because now I've realized how out of your area of expertise you've been handling a lot of stuff for us, which, I mean, our staff is, again, great.
And I think the crossover was natural in that we're maintaining and taking care of public park restrooms. And so it made sense to, well, will you help manage and oversee the custodians that take care of the building restrooms? You're already buying paper towels, toilet paper, cleaner, soap, floor cleaner, and mops and equipment. So why don't you take over this also? But then elevators and, HVAC systems, generator, transfer switches, all those kinds of things are outside of my realm of expertise and experience. And like he says, I've actually picked up quite a bit, but still not to the degree of someone who actually took some classes and some training and some school and has some years of experience doing those things.
Or as a general contractor's license, potentially.
Exactly. Who went through that training and experience. Right?
Even as simple as Bruce has been coming by a couple times a day to kickstart our boiler throughout the winter.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? So you're working on something else and you got to run to City Hall and fix it.
We can quickly go through the other building needs, but that is the big main thing is we're hoping to improve our standard with this new position.
If we looked at what it would take, you said 30 years this year for this building. What are the costs that would be required to bring it up to what we would say would be
so as cities
a good standard?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So the issue that cities aren't great at, and it's not just us, is deferred maintenance, right? So cities don't do a good job budgeting $100,000 or $200,000 a year to maintain your buildings or facilities, whatever that cost may be. And so what cities do is we build a building until it dies, and at you're 30 to 50, you just build a new city hall, right? And that's what you see a lot of cities do, is they just build a new city hall because they didn't do any deferred maintenance. So the question is, what route do you want to go? Do we want to try and extend the life of this building and invest potentially that $100,000 just like we do with water lines now to maintain them? Or do we allow this building just to die and we build a new one? Because that's what a lot of cities do, right? So there is a cost to it, but as cities, we're so conscientious of our budget, we don't set aside that deferred maintenance cost. But we need this type of position, like a general contractor type person, to come in and say, we need X, Y, and Z. This is about to collapse here. Our floor is concrete here, which is
But it's funny because we do it with Centerpoint. We do enter into the contract with them, put so much money into deferred maintenance on that building, but yet we're not doing it with our own building.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, you create this general fund reserve as somewhat of your deferred maintenance, but really we're not budgeting those dollars to spend to take the time to evaluate what does need to be replaced.
Are you suggesting that this new position is somebody who could be that level of expertise to come in and say, hey, guys, this is how much time I think that is left in this building, because we don't really have that.
That and to also help us extend the life to some extent, and if there's some remodel opportunities here, right, that keep our costs low and do it over time, not a bountiful where they could have built a brand new city hall for the cost of remodeling the whole thing, but they were forced to remodel instead. But if you can remodel certain things of a building, then it's not a huge cost all at once, but you keep your building, because this is a beautiful building, the location is amazing, so it's not as if we need a new city hall. Police department area is absolutely awful in what they have to work with, so there should be some opportunities to reevaluate, but doing changes over time and then fixing up that deferred maintenance, improving this section at a time, could be far more cost effective than building a new city hall.
I am reminded that Bryce sent us a picture of his thermostat, I want to say, and it was like 56 degrees in here, which is not.
It's about that right.
Oh, did I not tell you that hazard pays in here?
I'm like,
Because that's honestly what I thought about working here. And we're all running our heaters in our offices, which messing with the thermostat, because
the health of the building affects the health of the employees.
Oh, yeah.
And how, job satisfaction.
Bryce was angrier than ever.
Yeah, they hate going in their office because of the temperature or the worn out carpet or the old furniture or those kinds of things all play into job satisfaction of your employees. And I just think a higher standard of our building care will also improve the happiness and work satisfaction of the employees that work in the buildings.
Yeah.
So we can easily hire a contractor to come in, right? Pay somebody 50, 60 grand to come in and say, here's all the stuff you need to do.
And then leave
And not actually.
There's been some nice, we've done some remodel of the front desk and the front office area. We added, a few years back, we added the new court and
But we still have to
redesigned the
implement
EOC room and the break room.
Whatever that
We've done some things, but I just think it's more reactive than it has been proactive.
Sure.
And we react to things and fix things as we have to because of COVID or because of more staffing or needing more space or things like that. So anyway, that's hopefully you agree that we could make things better by doing this.
So we're talking about adding people to the payroll. Nate's suggested that we would need to raise taxes for each of those people. And I think that what you said, Bruce, is very important, that it would, if we could tie the life of the building and say, this is going to extend the life of the building so that we can postpone the buying or the building of a new building, then maybe that's something that we can sell to our residents as far as a reason to increase.
Well, and I think as far as actual numbers of employees, you'd go down. You'd go down by one or two, but your cost of wages would probably go up.
Yes, it's true.
But you would then have a contract, an additional housekeeping contract that we don't have right now. That would not be city employees, but would be providing service and being managed, overseen by this full-time building manager or supervisor. Anyway, so let's quickly go through these other budgets. And so on page 40 is the Parks and Rec building. And I don't know if you want to jump back and forth from however
you want to do it.
So there really isn't anything significant in all of the budgets. The sewer bills went up in all of the city buildings. So sewers has gone up a little bit, and also anywhere where there's
Maintenance repair.
the maintenance repair in public because we had a visit from an ocean inspector that caused everybody's
Well,
budgets.
we had a consultant come in. It was a free audit, actually, that they would come in and so it puts everything on
Free
hold. That
audit.
we couldn't get, OSHA couldn't
Free
come
audit
in and do an
from
inspection
ourselves?
on us. So we asked them, come in and tell us what we need, and they did.
It was a
awesome.
visit, not an inspection.
It was a consultant and that just kind of gave us some ideas of where we can improve, and I think it went great. I think it
Yeah,
was awesome.
yeah, and I think we've improved things. We, something like one, for example, we added an eye wash station by where we store all of our chemicals. We needed that, and we just needed someone to tell us we had to do it to get one ordered, get it installed. And now we have an eye wash station in case someone gets chemicals in their eye, they're not running over to the sink or the drinking fountain. There's an actual eye wash station to wash their eyes. So hopefully we don't have to use it, but we will test it. It has to be tested every week, make sure it stays working and is maintained. Another thing of building maintenance supervisor, we check those weekly testing of the eye wash station.
Way to sell it.
But the main thing is there's not a lot of regular significant changes in the building operations budgets. There is a few things that when we get to in equipment, that a couple of the buildings are asking for some equipment replacement or additions. City Hall, let's see, you'll see at the top there in the red, that reflects the new position we've talked about. And same thing, same operating costs, basically.
Does this budget take out the 3 part-time people? It doesn't, right? It leaves it status quo and just throws in the additional person.
So we have a
it's
chance to
possible-
fully study it.
So
Right.
it's possible the cost here would come down.
We think that would
It'll
probably
change,
be
I
a
won't
wash
say
with
completely.
whether or not you
Depends on-
hired a housekeeping contractor, whether you kept your in-house housekeepers. That would probably be similar in.
I think it would offset,
Give and
but
take.
that's what we gotta check to make sure, because we don't want to increase our cost. But anyway, we'll,
Okay.
So if you want to jump to what page?
Brent,
is
I've
it?
got it like I don't think this is an outlandish thought, because I think it's not too dissimilar to our volunteer citizen committees. But we may want to give thought to creating a committee that is like a capital facilities advisory committee.
so some cities do have a MIDA. What is it?
And the reason I say that is you have
District.
2 residents in our city.
Oh, that's military. MIDA is military, but
Yeah.
in Yuma, we had a
We have
committee
municipal
that,
building authority, but that's where.
yeah.
What I'm getting at, is we have
That's-
2 residents in our city that are extremely well-trained because they work at my office, that are both property managers and maintenance engineers, that instead of hiring, and I'm just saying there's 2 of those that I know of, and there's probably 8 or 10 more that are really proficient in their field of work, and they probably know each other in the city, and they would be an advisory volunteer committee that could say, hey, how can we save our community's tax dollars and be on a volunteer committee and give some recommendations to us as a city?
As soon as we hire the new building custodian, I think we'd be open to that idea.
He could be the staff liaison to that.
That's what I'm saying.
So I'm not-
I mean, this is a wild idea.
Yeah, so there is-
Or she, yes. thank you.
There is
He or
some
she,
level
right.
of, there's some level of
They.
too many committees
Very
and
nice
too many people involved. And I think some cities
I,
have actually grown too many committees and now they're trying to find a way to
Yeah,
shrink their committees.
and I understand.
So
I'm just trying,
we gotta
I'm
be
thinking
strategic
about some
about
really
what committees.
competent people that could come in here.
I don't think you need
in
a
a day
committee.
and say, oh, why are you guys doing this?
So I don't think you need a committee for that, but if that person wanted to consult with or ask questions too, that'd be great if they were
Maybe
available.
even helping us with writing the job description for this position.
Yeah.
We can look out what other cities are doing, other buildings or
Just food for
companies.
thought. If you want to reach out to me, I can make some connections.
Thank you.
If you'll jump to page 60, at the bottom of the page, you've got Parks and Recreation Facility. Under capital equipment detail, we have a washer and dryer in the Parks building that we use to wash the floor scrubbing pads and rags and other custodial supplies. Occasionally, employees will wash or dry a jumpsuit or uniform also that is worn out. So we were asking to replace the washer and dryer. The Public Works facility, there's some damage to the oil water separator that needs some repair work done to it. You'll see there, number 2 is the shop lift that actually goes over in the Parks recreation facility that is an equipment lift for being able to lift all of our trucks, not just.
Well, just let me clarify. The original intent was actually to replace the pit in Public Works. Because part of the OSHA visit, we have a pit.
Oh, right, okay.
And so, and OSHA's like, we don't like pits anymore because people can fall into, even though our netting's there. So the shoplift was replace the pit. But I know Parks and Recs have been asking
But they
for
still
a
have a
shoplift.
pit.
What's that?
But they still have a pit. It's just OSHA didn't think it was.
Well, we would get rid of the pit and have a
Fill it in,
shoplift.
fill it in.
Yeah, we'd fill it in.
But you still have a pit.
Right now,
You didn't have
currently.
a lift.
Yes.
Okay.
So that was in the Public Works for that reason.
Oh, okay, because Dave didn't know, and I said, well, I think that probably is our one, so.
No, that was.
Good thing you're here, Dave.
They asked about that netting, the netting that goes across the bottom had to be repaired. I don't remember it being.
But it's in the budget, we need that.
I've been saying no for 6 years, 5
It
years.
was like in the Layton Parks that I went to yesterday, they were brand new pit in their parks.
Okay, so the OSHA advisor was, because that's what I was told by
Just the newer safety.
Mike. It's in our budget meetings that was shared with us that was to replace.
I think that's something to do with
Yeah, we got the pit.
That's all.
Okay, well, it's in the budget and potentially go to Parks Building.
I don't know, but we're gonna fill it in for 6 months.
Well, and then,
That's true.
that's what I was, the third item in Public Works is, Mike Carlson referred to this, but he's asking for $3,000 just to finish the remodel that they've done to the front office area. City Hall, a couple of big ticket items is boiler replacements, $107,000. And then the outside power shutoff, which Brant mentioned. So we have a backup emergency generator. It has a transfer switch that when the power goes out, it used to automatically go through a transfer switch, kick on, and the power would come right back on. So there was actually only just a less than a 1 minute delay, or when the power go out, this building was back in power within a minute. And that transfer switch, which has gone bad and can be repaired, but in order to repair it, you have to be able to shut off power to the building to work on that transfer switch. It's code that every building has an outside power shutoff for fire code. In case there's a fire, so the fire department needs to be able to come and shut the power off before they can go in and save the people who are in the building. We don't have that. Somehow it wasn't ever put in this building. This building does not have a power shutoff. So that's what you see here is the cost of putting in an exterior power shutoff for this building, so that then we can repair our automatic transfer switch and the emergency generator power and all that. So currently we can still supply power to this building in an emergency, but someone, myself or someone who knows how, has to physically get up here, throw the switches, push the buttons, and transfer the power over. And once the power comes back on, turn it all back off again, switch it back the other way. So we have some emergency capabilities, but they're greatly reduced because we don't have that power exterior power.
And this is where our EOC is, so this is critical that we make sure that our EOC is up and running.
Just, yeah, so there's, any questions on that? Okay. And then Public Works Storage Decant, they actually are not asking, they took out they talked about some door over there. So that's that, and you already talked about Whitaker Museum's requests and things, so that's buildings. Unless you've got any other questions on buildings.
Vice Workers?
Thank you. So, you gotta incorporate in what I see we missed from 7:55 to 8:30, those things, right? And then we have Parks and Parks Committee, is that what we missed tonight?
Correct.
So, keeping, Chief and Bruce in mind, I don't know if you want to revise this agenda or throw it at the end or see who goes best.
Either way.
You know.
I just think they start off Thursday and then we just go in order.
Okay.
Because ultimately this
So
isn't.
everybody, staff here knows what to plan on.
We'll just go in the order that we missed, so it would be police, parks, and then we hit community services, recreation.
You can kick it off.
Bring the energy, make it entertaining.
Oh, yeah, let's think about that. Let's have Haley start.
We'll start.
Sirens.
Let's change that.
No tasers.
I was gonna say tasing.
No tasers.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We're adjourned, thank you. Just 3:40.